Hello, everyone. Good evening. Just a couple of quick announcements before we get started. First, there's a gold Honda with license plate BIR M32 that has a piece of rebar in its front left tire. I recommend someone go and check if that is your car. Again, it's a gold Honda license plate BIR M32. Next up, we ask that everyone move up to fill all the seats. As you all know, we're expecting a lot of people, so we'd like to accommodate as many people as we can. And we will be getting started in a couple of minutes. So thank you all for coming.
Good evening, everyone. We can start taking our seats. We're going to begin here because we do have a lot of comments to make. And I do recognize that we do have additional stakeholders coming in still, and so I do want to make sure that we give everybody a chance to hear comments, but we do want to get going because we do have a lot of people interested in speaking tonight, so I want to make sure we get started. So to begin with, welcome everyone. I'll try. If we could please be quiet, we can get started. Okay, thank you everyone. So, good evening, welcome. I just want to first start off and say thank you for coming tonight. This is not the first 511 we've had for the Lowry Ranch Cap, but I wanted to make sure that, as we've said, we're going to make sure for each of the OGDPs we will be available for 511 hearings. We will have them. We are interested in what you have to say. We want to know your thoughts on these different applications. So thank you for taking the time to come here tonight and to speak to us. I just want to say I'm joined by Hearings Manager Elias Thomas, as well as my fellow Commissioner Brett Ackerman. Although not all 5 commissioners are here tonight, the others are going to be listening. This is going to be a recorded hearing. Unfortunately, Jeff is down in Durango, Tricia is out of town, and John is ill, and he was initially planning to be here. But everybody will be listening to the hearing because we all do want to hear these comments. Before we begin, I do want to take a moment and just recognize what today is. It is 9/11, and so I do want to take a minute, if we could, to just have a moment to recognize everyone from 24 years ago, not only those lives lost, but to the first responders that took the time to try and help, and everyone else as well. So if we could have a moment of silence. Thank you. So I do want to point out a couple other people that are here this evening. Sorry, this microphone's getting loud. I do want to note that there are other state agency representatives that are here. We do have colleagues from Colorado Parks and Wildlife. As you know, Colorado Parks and Wildlife is involved in our OGDP process. They provide consultations, and they did so on this application as well. And so they have information in the file as well about their consultation process, with communications with the applicant here. And so there's information you can find from them, but they are available. We also have colleagues from the State Land Board. They are the land and mineral estate owners here. They went through a public process and provided their input on the locations as well. And that information is also available online. I do not believe Tessa Sorensen from CDPHE is here. I know she is also sick, but she did plan on being here. As you know, CDPHE also provides a consultation for all of our applications. The consultation letter provided by CDPHE is available in the file for this application as well. So you can also get the state agency's views from a public health perspective on the best management practices that are proposed for this, and CDPHE's opinion on those best management practices. So I also want to note that this is in Arapahoe County. I believe we have some Arapahoe County representatives here as well. But this was also an application that had to go through a public process with Arapahoe County. And so I do know that many of you have also provided comments before Arapahoe County. and as well, and I believe that some of those representatives are here as well, and I want to thank them for coming. We also have representatives from Crestone, the applicant, here today, so they are listening to your comments as well. And next, I'd like to thank the Elbert County deputies and the state patrol troopers that are here today. You'll see them standing around. I appreciate them taking the time to be here today and make sure that this goes smoothly. And finally, I'd also like to note that our hearing is being translated in real time by our language interpreters, Daisy and Dianira. If anybody needs additional help with language interpretation, please see Jessica or Kristen, and they can make sure that you have a setup so you have that language interpretation ready. As you'll see, the room is very full tonight. I believe we are at capacity, and we still have some people coming in, which is why we also have a DJ set up and speakers outside to try and make sure everyone can hear comments. I do ask that you be mindful. We are going to take a break partway through to try and assess where we are on time and speakers. But it might be helpful if you have given comments early on to exit so additional people have a chance to come in and provide comments as well while we still stay within the capacity of the venue here. A few little notes. I do want to say this hearing is really about you. We are here to listen to your comments. We are here to hear your input on this application. We are not here to deliberate today. We are not here to answer questions. You will see both Commissioner Ackerman and I taking a lot of notes. And I want to make sure that everyone is aware. We appreciate these comments. We understand these comments, and we hear your comments. They do matter. A lot of times, and I like to make this point, a lot of times you'll see in the hearings, a lot of my questions to the applicant are geared towards the questions and the comments that I hear from these meetings. And so I want to make sure that the applicants address those comments as well as the comments and questions that we may have separately as commissioners. But again, so you will not be hearing us speak after this introduction other than to let you know if we're getting close to time or if we're taking a break after these introductions. As of now, we're still planning, despite the high number of people, still planning on giving everyone 3 minutes to speak. We are going to be a little bit stricter on the 3 minutes tonight. I understand that everyone has a lot that they want to say on this, but as you can see, there's a lot of people that want to provide that comment. Unlike the Arapahoe County Fairgrounds, where we've had some of these meetings before, we do have a harder deadline as to when we have to leave. And so in order to meet that deadline, we are going to make sure that we continue to stay on that 3 minutes so everybody has an opportunity. I know there was attempts to try and set up a second virtual hearing so we could provide additional opportunities to provide comment. But from my understanding is that we were told that they just wanted the one public hearing, and so that's what we're going to be doing. And so we're going to try and be a little stricter to make sure that everybody gets that opportunity. At the 6:30 break, the approximate 6:30 break we'll take, if we're still running quite behind, we might try and lower the comments to 2.5 minutes just to make sure that we do hear from everyone. If you get an opportunity, if somebody said something you had that you want to say, you can also refer back to their comments. That will help speed things along as well. But I do want to know a couple more housekeeping matters before I turn it over to Hearings Manager Thomas. On the agenda, there's a QR code to take a survey. Please do take the time to fill out that survey if you get the chance. It's helpful to our community relations team to make improvements as we continue to have these meetings, as we continue to have additional listening sessions, even beyond the Lowry Ranch cap. It's important that we understand what's working, what's not working, how we can improve, and how we can make sure that we are best serving the stakeholders and listening to your comments. With that, I think the other things we'll note, what's worked well in the past is we'll go by numbers. So we'll announce speakers and kind of say who's on deck and who's in the hole. Just be ready to come up and speak, and so that way we continue to move this along expeditiously. So thank you again for coming, and with that, I'll hand it over to Hearings Manager Thomas.
Thank you, Commissioner Cross. My name is Elias Thomas. I'm the Hearings Manager at ECMC. ECMC's mission is to regulate the development of production of oil and gas, deep geothermal resources the capture and sequestration of carbon, and the underground storage of natural gas in a manner that protects public health, safety, welfare, the environment, and wildlife resources. I want to briefly describe ECMC's permitting process, and I will provide some details about the proposed Crestone State Sunlight Long OGDP. To begin, this is part of a comprehensive area plan, or a CAP. A CAP is an optional, holistic, landscape-level process for planning and permitting locations for the production of oil and gas in Colorado. CAPs precede individual OGDPs. An OGDP is a process that requires energy development operators to seek approval from ECMC for each proposed drilling location. Because the CAP process supports this mission, ECMC encourages oil and gas operators to submit CAPs for approval prior to applying for OGDPs. A CAP can span 2 or more subsequent OGDPs, and an OGDP can encompass a single well or up to 7 dozen wells or multiple locations. Obtaining ECMC's approval for a CAP or an OGDP is an extensive and public process. Crestone has obtained approval for the CAP at Lowry Ranch. They did so in the summer of 2024. Many of you participated in that process. Next, the operator will follow the OGDP process. ECMC reviews OGDP application materials for compliance with all statutory and regulatory requirements. The operator's application passes the objective completeness phase upon an analysis that the CAP or OGDP complies with those requirements. Crestone submitted their CAP and it has passed the completeness phase. That is when the 45-day public comment period begins, and that is where we are now. Commission hearings are public meetings, and ECMC welcomes public comments in the following ways: stakeholder comments during the application phase, written comments from the public submitted during the public comment period, which is occurring right now, real-time comments during commission hearings, and comments at 511 public comment hearings, such as the one today. At the conclusion of the public comment phase, we'll be holding a public hearing at which the commission will decide to approve, deny, or stay the OGDP. Only applications that have passed completeness may come before the commission, and the 5-member commission has the discretion to approve, deny, or stay these applications. Like Commissioner Cross said, this particular OGDP is scheduled for its hearing before the commission on October 29th, 2025. That date is included on your agenda and will be virtual. This particular OGDP, the State Sunlight Long OGDP, is for one location. One new location with 32 wells. No permanent storage tanks are planned or being permitted. This is the 4th of 8 expected locations within this CAP. The OGDP also refers to a second location, the State Harvard North location, which will receive produced water from the OGDP location and will not be seeing significant expansion. It is included in the OGDP to account for the emissions associated with produced water removal. Thank you again, everyone, for coming and for taking the time to share your views with us, and I will turn it back to Commissioner Cross to begin the hearing.
Thank you, Elias. 2 other things I wanted to note. Hearings Manager Thomas did mention written comments there. I know that many of you have already submitted written comments. I've read every written comment that's come in as of yesterday, but I do encourage you to submit written comments as well. Sometimes people think of things after the hearing that they want to say, and so I do encourage you to submit written comments, and we will be reading all of those as well. And one final thing that I believe happened either yesterday or the day before. As many of you are probably aware, there was also a judicial review of part of the CAP itself, filed by Maverick, who is one of the potential other parties to the CAP, not to this OGDP. But a couple days ago, that appeal was dismissed. The parties had come to a resolution on how that would be handled, and so that was dismissed, so the stay on the CAP itself was lifted. I believe it was effective either yesterday or the day before. So just one more additional piece of information so everyone is aware. With that said, again, we're going to be trying to call everybody by numbers here. So if we could get the first 3 speakers ready, that'll be Speaker 1, Speaker 2, and Speaker 3. We'll get this rolling. Oh, I'm sorry, under 1A. Yeah. So speaker number 1.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, good afternoon, commissioners. I am Madhvi Jator, 14-year-old eco-warrior. I'm here to plead with you all to stop the approval of the State Sunlight Long well pad in its current location. I'm also speaking as an individual, by the way. So we are all aware that this is a humongous mega pad of size 35 acres supporting 32 to 64 wells. I am not opposed to fracking in itself, but opposed to unethical fracking near homes, near schools, opposed to unethical fracking that puts profits first and compromises public health, ecosystems, wildlife, and above all, our life elements itself, air, water, soil, and food. If there is a clean fracking solution, I am for it. I have traveled widely to many well pads and drilling locations like the Permian Basin in Texas, in New Mexico, then the Draculic well pad in Pennsylvania, super pads in the Marcellus Shale, etc., etc. This State Sunlight Long well pad stands out in terms of scale and density and is among the largest and most densely packed well pads in the United States. Residents near oil and gas operations have repeatedly reported serious health impacts from unseen emissions. I emphasize unseen emissions, even from small well pads or single wells. At Lybrook Elementary in New Mexico, students suffered headaches, nausea, irritation, nosebleeds, sinus issues, and vomiting, sometimes multiple times in a single day from exposure to fewer than 20 dispersed wells. In our community, Sunrise Elementary and Aspen Crossing Elementary are each located less than a mile from the proposed mega well pad. If this project is approved, it is very likely that young children ages 5 to 10 attending these schools could face similar acute and repeated health impacts. Higher rates of acute lymphoblastic leukemia and lymphoma have been reported in children, and low birth weight in babies born to mothers living within 3.1 miles from the wells. Further, in Colorado itself, we are very familiar with the Bella Romero Academy's plight in Greeley. All members of the commission, I ask you to answer these questions to yourselves before making your decision. Do you want these impacts to be repeated in this Aurora neighborhood? Do you want the children here to suffer as they did elsewhere? Will you weigh the potential risks to the health and well-being of our children when deciding to approve this well pad or not? Will you order an alternative location analysis? As the rights of a child and of that of other children to clean air, clean water, clean soil, clean food, and great health are in jeopardy, please weigh the evidence. These health risks are not hypothetical, so don't make this as a namesake for the record 511 hearing. Protect children's health and say no to this project at this current location. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goldsmith-Cannon, it's all you.
Hello, I'm Mark Goldsmith-Cannon, speaking as a citizen of Arapahoe County. The currently proposed location of the Sunlight Long well pad is completely unacceptable for a myriad of reasons you'll be hearing about more from other speakers. We all strongly believe this well pad application should be completely denied, but we also see the possibility of the ECMC approving an alternate location presented by Crestone as alternative location number 1. This location has the advantage of being further from densely populated residential neighborhoods and would provide at least a partially improved impact to the health and safety of all the residents of these neighborhoods. This is a fact that Crestone itself has acknowledged in its own analysis report, but Crestone reported just 2 disadvantages, both of which are false. Number 1, it would require an access road through the State Land Board's Tier 1 property. The SLB has publicly confirmed that Aurora has abandoned plans for the East Aurora Reservoir, and this property can and will be reclassified for Crestone's use. In fact, the SLB concluded that this route was environmentally preferable and approved it for the Sunlight Long access road and pipeline in this area. and further indicated that the tier map would be updated because the reservoir is no longer being pursued. They just haven't yet published the updated map. Number 2, Crestone also claimed the location, quote, would not fully develop the targeted drill spacing unit. Even if this were true, which it is not, SB 19-181 tells us that this should not even be a consideration because there is no such thing as wasted minerals in Colorado. But more importantly, their claim is just completely untrue, since Civitas and Crestone have demonstrated the capability to extend their horizontal drilling lines much further than 3 miles, as they've shown in other recent projects right here in the Denver region, and as other oil and gas companies have shown in numerous areas around the country. Their convenience and financial considerations cannot take precedence over the public health, safety, and welfare. Should the ECMC approve alternative location number 1, there should also be a long list of conditions of approval requiring many BMPs, including full grid electrification of all phases of development and production to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the neighboring residents, the environment, and critical wildlife in this area. The most important thing for you to take away from what we're saying is that the currently proposed location is completely unacceptable and must be denied. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, and just to confirm, you were saying alternative location 1 was the one you mentioned? I had a hard time. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Wendy Hannafy, a resident of Aurora and a retired wildlife biologist. I handed each commissioner a longer, detailed written comment for the public record, but I will summarize the key points here. 2 days ago, our consultant at Adaptation Environmental, a recognized expert by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, conducted a northern leopard frog survey in the area impacted by the Sunlight Lawn well pad. He was trailed by 2 state land board staff, ensuring his movements and findings were documented. He found a frog in the upland area east of the Aurora Reservoir, right by the proposed Sunlight Lawn pad. This was in dry, hot conditions, not when frogs are typically easy to find. He also confirmed frogs in Black Shack Creek, consistent with prior HWA wildlife reports. The upland finding is important because it shows that the pad site is not empty ground. It is a movement corridor where the frogs forage, shelter, and likely move between Aurora Reservoir and Black Shack Creek for breeding and overwintering. Northern leopard frogs travel significant distances across landscapes and rely on migration corridors. A fracking pad in the middle of that corridor creates direct threats from road mortality from trucks and heavy equipment, contamination from spills and chemicals, and permanent habitat loss and fragmentation of 35 acres. Noise pollution is another major concern. Frogs communicate and breed through acoustic signals, and persistent industrial and truck noises disrupt those calls, reduces reproductive success, and elevates stress levels, making populations more vulnerable to disease. This population is already under pressure, and the pad would intensify those threats within an area where critical aquatic and terrestrial habitats connect. By disrupting migration routes, destroying foraging grounds, and exposing the frogs to toxic risk, the Sunlight Lawn pad could cause a dramatic population decline and jeopardize this sensitive species. Under SB 19-181, the Energy and Carbon Management Commission must ensure oil and gas development does not unduly harm wildlife or ecosystems. Based on the science and direct observations at the site, placing a fracking pad here would clearly do so. I am therefore requesting that this Sunlight Lawn pad be either canceled entirely or relocated to an alternative location away from critical northern leopard frog corridor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I ask again that my full written submission be entered into the record.
And it will be. Marcia,
Hi.
that's all you.
Good evening. I'm speaking as an individual citizen. My name is Marcia Goldsmith-Cannon. I've been addressing this body long enough to recollect some very important points made on the record by the ECMC regarding the proposed oil and gas wells at Lowry Ranch. You've already shown us why the current proposed location for Sunlight Lawns is unacceptable. At the CAP hearing last August, AAG Davenport confirmed commissioners said in the final ruling that the CAP was approved with a modification that requires electrification for all facilities for oil and gas development within the CAP. Commissioner Ackerman then clarified, are you talking about mandating electrification for the production of all facilities or throughout the drilling process? Commissioner Robbins stated both. We're so grateful that we have this on record, and we know Sunlight Lawn cannot be approved without grid electrification. AAG Davenport also said, I know there was significant discussion about effectively notifying or warning the applicant that the commission will be looking closely at these locations. I think it's clear in our rules that by approval of the CAP, the commission is not approving any OGDP or location. Now we have on record you're looking closely at Sunlight Lawns' proximity to homes and location. We are well aware cumulative impacts are going to increase the already poor air quality, making a lot of noise, shining bright lights, producing a lot of truck traffic, none of which this densely populated area needs right now. We already know from reading the application documents, cumulative impact analysis is insufficient because it's not protecting and minimizing adverse impacts to the wildlife, as we just found out, specifically the northern leopard frog. The precautionary principle demands we refuse to repeat the Gallatin mistake. When credible science and real-world events show risk, especially to children, schools, water, wildlife, action must follow. Based on your own mitigation hierarchy, if you're approving a 35-acre well pad so close to thousands of homes and drinking water reservoir, how can you say you are avoiding adverse impacts? Instead, you're simply trying to mitigate harm, the lowest rung on your hierarchy, especially due to the history of Civitas' spills and violations. Here are some of the COAs to attach to the recommendation. A pipeline, remove the water away from the reservoir. Grid-powered electrification for all phases of operation. Updated wildlife surveys, notifications for the surrounding community must be in place prior to construction. The mitigation plans provided will not protect the public health, safety, and well-being. The pad must be relocated. The proposed location for Sunlight Lawn is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. So Speaker 4 and Speakers 5 and 6, if you could be ready as well.
Good evening. My name is Brian Sorial, and I'm a resident of Aurora. I am here to strongly oppose the Sunlight Lawn fracking pad proposal due to extreme public safety risks. Colorado's grassland wildfires can move at staggering speeds, 6 to 14 miles per hour in typical conditions, and over 20 miles per hour in high winds. Our local fire responses are slow. It would take at least 25 to 32 minutes for fire crews to arrive. By then, flames could have traveled up to 7 miles, endangering homes and lives before help even arrives. If winds are severe, a fire could potentially spread more than 30 miles, while responders are still en route. There simply isn't enough margin for error here. On top of fire risks, fracking, blowouts, and toxic spills are not rare. This year, a Chevron well blowout near Greeley blanketed the area in hazardous benzene and methane gas for days, contaminating air over 8 miles and almost taking 5 days to secure. Imagine such a disaster at Sunlight Long, next to the Aurora Reservoir and nearly 900 homes. By Civitas's own plan, it could take up to 12 hours for their emergency contractor to arrive. This leaves our community dangerously exposed to delays in the event of a major spill. No air monitors, no immediate warning system, and no evacuation plans exist for residents, schools, or businesses within a 1 to 3 mile radius. That means no real protection for more than 10,000 households, including children and seniors who would be at risk in a worst-case scenario. The Sunlight Long pad is simply too close to too many people, and emergency services are stretched too thin for an industrial site of this risk. In sum, the Sunlight Long proposal endangers both our community and environment. Fast-moving wildfires here outpace fire trucks, and oil and gas emergencies can escalate and toxins spread long before specialized help can arrive. Without local air monitoring or an immediate warning system, thousands of residents and our critical water source would be exposed to the risk in the event of a blowout, leak, or fire. No evacuation or notification plans are in place for homes. None. For homes or schools and vulnerable populations are well within harm's way. Aurora's safety, air, and drinking water should not be gambled for oil and gas industry convenience. The emergency response capacity is simply too weak for the hazards this project would bring for public safety and community well-being. I strongly urge this commission to reject or require the relocation of the Sunlight Long fracking pad. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And I was mistaken, we're going to have a 4A. So we'll have speakers 4A and then 5.
So I am 3A. Sue over here is number 5. If you're 4A, you're after me. Thank you, Mr. Cross. My name is Jason Wu. I'm a teacher, and I have a background in chemistry, a PhD in science education. I have a student who, when she was 3 years old, let's call her Abby, she got leukemia. And she showed me a picture today of when she was 4, she was going through chemo, she had lost all her hair. She had showed me the video of when they were singing to her the No More Chemo song as she was walking out of the hospital. I have another colleague who also, his daughter had cancer when she was about 3 or 4. Abby didn't remember a thing, but I bet you her parents did. I want us all to imagine for a moment the heartache that they felt when she got leukemia. These are real people getting real cancer. Here's what we know. Research from the last 2 years shows a 3,000-foot setback is likely not enough to minimize or eliminate childhood cancer risk. Trisha, I think at the last virtual meeting said, look at the comments. Look at the response to the comments. Well, we already had. And what it said was, Arapahoe County 3,000-foot minimum setback from occupied structures relied on 2 analyses from 2019 and 2021. They're outdated. Knowing that important evidence, this is my main point, okay? Listen. Knowing that important evidence from the last 2 years has not been considered by the county, it would be unethical to vote your approval. If I'm a commission member, and I know that there's critical evidence that has not been considered by the county, and I know I have the authority to ask the county to review, but yet I vote yes, that would be unethical. Once they do, they're going to find out that fracking very close to homes is inviting significant cancer risk. Email me at jasonwho4@gmail.com, and I'm going to walk you through the math and the sources. But here's the summary. If oil and gas property tax revenue doubles post-approval in Cherry Creek School District, that would be an additional $4 per student per year. That's a doubling of tax revenue. All for anywhere from 6 to 22 additional kids like Abby getting cancer per year. I don't want to receive $4 so that 22 kids can get cancer. No, thank you. Wells located close to homes are a fraction of the overall drilling. It's not a lot of jobs. It's not a lot of revenue, but we are bringing on more of this kind of heartache that Abby's parents went through for measly dollars and cents. Here's what we also know. The Director of Public Health, who is Jim Ludwig, was appointed by 7 Arapahoe County Board of Health members. These people are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. The Director of Public Works, Brian Weimer, is appointed by the Board of Commissioners. It all comes down to the Board of Commissioners. Our elected commissioner here in District 3 is Jeff Baker. Jeff Baker should not be reelected. The ECMC members were appointed by Jared Polis. All of these people were appointed by Jared Polis. In 2026, vote for a non-Polis affiliate and make this a primary gubernatorial issue so that we don't get fracked. Vote for any district commissioner willing to clean house in Arapahoe County, because this is a failure on the part of the county. It is a failure on the part of the county. Don't stop fighting this thing. Don't worry about the outcome. Time to call, write, email, reach. Don't
If we can
give
please
up.
in the comments, other people want to speak as well. Okay, 2 quick notes before we have, I believe, 4A next. I believe there may be some people out in the lawn listening that have not signed in and have not gone to speak. If that's one of you, please do come around and you can sign up to speak, sign up to register that you're here as well, so we can also send information to you as well.
Who's next?
I believe it should be 4A next, and we will also have a 5A insert. And I think that's the last insert, but I think there's a 4A. And if there's not a 4A, then let's move on to 5. And again, I do want to say I understand that a lot of people have a lot of things to say, and I do appreciate that, and we're listening. But we do want to try and get as many people to speak as we can, and so to give everybody a chance, please stick to the 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Sue Eversberger, and I live in this area. Kathy, you have to tell me the name of our development. Wheatlands. I always forget it. We have been here before. We have been with you before. And during that time, we've spoken about a lot of different things that I'm just going to tick off, and you can remember those. We've talked about the Aurora Reservoir and keeping it clean. We've talked about being near the site, the Superfund site. We've talked about the kids in the schools and their health. We've talked about the wildlife that is going to be affected by this. We've talked about all kinds of things. We've talked about our homes going down in value, which is of concern to many of us. We've talked about the fact that this is going to be really, really close to a whole lot of people. And there are 2 things I want to go back to tonight. I don't have new data like the man before me spoke to you about, or even I'm not as eloquent as Marcia and her husband about what needs to happen. But I can tell you these 2 things. One is when we first started talking and meeting with you, there was a report that came out that talked about how much water was going to be irreclaimable after this. And that water, people had misread as gallons, and it turned out to be barrels of water. And that water ended up being, when you calculated it out for the whole project, 4 billion gallons of water. Now, I haven't lived here a whole long time, a couple of years,
But since I've lived here, everybody has spoken about the fact that we're looking forward to water shortages, to not having enough water in 20 years, 30 years, maybe even 50. But there's not going to be enough. So I don't understand how that doesn't stop you dead right there. I don't understand how not having water, because they're going to use this water and it's not going to be able to be cleaned up for us to drink, right? So how do you do that? That's billions of gallons of water. Now that's not all at this well, but it is billions. Now I'm going to ask your permission to approach you. May I do that?
Yes.
I'm going to ask that y'all look into my eyes. I'm asking that you look into the eyes because I am one of the people whose health is going to be dramatically affected by this. I have respiratory issues, and they are going to get worse, far worse. And they are probably going to make me not live as long. So when you're making that decision, I hope you remember looking in my eyes. I hope you remember all those kids on the playgrounds that are also going to have their health affected. And I hope you remember these things as you make those decisions. It's going to affect all of us in different ways, some of us more severely than others. And it's also going to affect the wildlife that's out there. So I ask that you remember that. Now, the Hopi Indians, when they're making a decision, I'll be real quick. When they're making decisions, they get around what they call the children's fire. And when they're around the children's fire, everybody has a chance to speak, kind of like what we're doing tonight. So everybody who wants to speak can speak. And at the end of that, the grandparents make the decision. The elders, you are our elders. And they make it with the following question in mind. What will be best for the grandchildren? So as you make this decision, I hope that you remember that question. What will be best for all of our children? What will be best for their future? Thank you.
Okay, 5A is next. No, it's actually 5.
Hi, my name is Chorus Young. I'm really tired of coming up here time and time again saying about how we shouldn't poison ourselves. I mean, it should be obvious. And I don't know about you. I want to grow up the same way you guys did. Is that so much to ask for? And to be really frank, this isn't about money, it's about survival. And I just hope that my generation can fix the problems your generation is causing. And if you guys can work on it,
All right, 6. Am I? Okay.
Sorry about that, but good evening. My name is Ty, and I'm here today as an environmental chemistry major, a Colorado resident, and most importantly, a young adult with a vested interest in the future of our planet's health and stability. I find the proposed completion of the Sunlight Long mega well pad not only appalling, but deeply dangerous for our environment, public health, and the well-being of thousands of Coloradans. In addition to the obvious public health and environmental concerns, to satisfy their outrageously high water needs, Civitas plans to truck in massive quantities of water from Bar Lake, draining a scarce resource to fuel an operation that poisons the very environment we rely on. After its use, that water is injected deep underground, where it contributes to increased seismic activity and disappears permanently from the Earth's water cycle. It's never used again and highlights a dangerous consequence for a world growing drier and drier each year. Not only is this bad environmental policy, but it's plain reckless and unsustainable. As a state, we need to end the prioritization of short-term profit over the health and lives of our citizens and the global community. Although I don't live near this site, as a victim of the Marshall Fire, I know what it means to suffer the consequences of fossil fuel dependence. Overnight, I lost nearly everything I owned, and I'll never forget the feeling of watching the only neighborhood I've ever known burn down on national television. The Marshall Fire was exacerbated by climate change, so unless we want increasingly severe natural disasters and more stories like mine, we must stop continuing activities that directly worsen it. To begin our transition to a sustainable lifestyle, we must first have the courage to say no to projects like this. Projects that sacrifice long-term public health for short-term corporate gain. We cannot keep treating our environment as a disposable resource and as something to extract from, poison, and abandon, rather than protect and cherish. There's no plan B, so we must make the choice to protect what we can now. The Sunlight Long Pad is not a small project. It's a clear, dangerous step backwards that, if completed, will have ripple effects felt for decades. My generation will be the one living with these consequences, and I refuse to stand by silently as decisions are made on my behalf that endanger my future and the future of generations to come. So I urge you, please don't ignore the science, the health risks, or the voices of your constituents. Have the courage to reject the Sunlight Long Pad before we all look back with regret. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So Haley, just so you're the 5A, the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Just so
you.
I know where we're
Yeah,
at.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
I know that none of us have enough time to say everything we want to say tonight. So I pray that we hope we say the right words and it's meaningful. I know there's only 3 of 5 of you, and I hope that it makes an impact. I know that you are all familiar with the concept of innocent until proven guilty versus guilty until proven innocent, and how big of a difference that is. And in this case, the whole fracking industry was given a whole innocent pass back in 2005. However, we have so much data now, so much data that proves the industry guilty, including your own reports and your own data. 3,275 falsified instances of data between 2021 and 2024, and a lot of that's from Civitas, who has hundreds of spills, also reported on your site. There is so much reason to say that they are guilty of hurting a lot of people. And so you are now the judge of this. The industry has been granted for so long not only being the witness of their own data, but then they get to be the judge and jury and say that our data as community doesn't matter. In the 1990s and 2000s, endocrine research and research that showed small health impacts for small amounts of exposure was dismissed as junk science by the industry. How many of us have to die before we can finally say our data matters, our voices matter? If you approve this pad, you will once again perpetuate the failure of democracy. But if you are able to reject this pad and realize that this is historic, this amount of community interaction is historic, and there are so many reasons to reject Sunlight Long. If you reject it, you prove that the ECMC is more than just a shield for the industry. You prove that your cumulative impacts, SB 19-181, everything you're doing actually matters and can protect your citizens. Thank you.
Okay, I believe we're on 7.
Hello, my name is Aria, and I'm 10 years old, and I go to Altitude Elementary School. I wake up each morning with sunlight and song, but now there's a shadow, the Sunlight Long. A monster of metal, of noise, and of gas. Too close to our playgrounds, too close to our class. They say it brings power, they say it brings pay. But what if it also takes childhood away? We live here, we learn here, and we run and play. Why put our young lives in danger this way? I already struggle to breathe when I run. I have asthma, and that's not just very fun. Some days I wheeze from dust in the air. What will I do when more pollution is there? Studies have confirmed the danger is real. Leukemia rates climb, and that's part of the deal. For kids near these wells, the threat isn't small. Our health is at stake. Do you hear our call? 32 wells, it's just way too much. Near schools, playgrounds, and water we touch. From South Shore to Beacon, Blackstone to Pines, why build something harmful where young futures shine? You can move the pad, we all know you could. 8 miles away would be safer and good. Far from our homes and the places we grow. Far from the lungs that already say no. So I ask with my heart and I ask with my voice. Please make the smart, brave, and careful choice. Don't let this pad come too close to our day. Please move it, protect us, and keep harm away. The current location proposed is unacceptable. It's unsafe, unjust, and is indefensible. We are your community and we are standing strong. We are telling you clearly that this choice is wrong. So listen to us. Really hear what we say. Deny this pad or move it. Protect us, keep the danger away. Thank you.
My name is Rachel, and that young lady is my why. She is the reason why I'm standing in front of you today. For over 3 years, our community has sounded the alarm about the physical and environmental threats posed by the project, the risks to the air quality and public health, increased wildfire potential, lack of emergency preparedness, the recent spills and falsified data, and the contamination of our drinking water. But tonight, I urge you to please consider a dimension that is too often overlooked, the relentless toll on our mental health. This is not an assault on our air and water. It is an attack on our peace of mind. A study by the Colorado School of Public Health, led by Stephanie Mallon, surveyed hundreds of households across northern Colorado, our own region, and found that 90% of residents experienced chronic stress, and 75% reported long-term depression, tied directly to nearby fracking operations. 2 main drivers stood out: the uncertainty, not knowing what chemicals are being used, where the water is coming from, whether the tanks are leaking, or what effects might emerge 20 years down the line. This leads to psychological strain. The powerlessness, feeling ignored by decision makers, with limited opportunities to speak or actually influence outcomes. These are not dry statistics, these are living, breathing stories from our own neighbors. Living under this kind of uncertainty fosters a feeling of invisibility, not just to toxins, but to the systems meant to protect our health. Every day, families in our community will be subjected to this plan. They will grapple with insomnia, persistent anxiety, and the emotional exhaustion of raising our children under the industrial siege. These impacts are not going to show up on your air monitors, and they're not going to show up on your zoning maps, but they are going to disrupt our bedrooms, our classrooms, and the heart of our family life. The American Psychological Association warns that chronic environmental stressors do contribute to depression, academic decline, social isolation, and widespread psychological distress. I speak from lived experience, not an abstract concern, but as someone whose anxiety and sleepless nights for 3 years began the moment this project started. And I know that I am not alone in any of this. You are being asked to approve this infrastructure that will inflict profound, measurable mental health harm. Deny the application or move it very far away. We deserve health, safety, and peace, and not years of invisible anguish. And I'm going to ask each of you to please look at every single person in this room who showed up tonight. Look at everyone who is outside and know that behind each of their faces is a story. They are my neighbors, they are my friends, and they are people who will bear the weight of your decision for many years to come. Our mental well-being, our collective security, and our future are in your hands. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I know a couple people signed up for Spanish interpretation and are speakers in Spanish, but if you did sign up, Daisy is in the back with services of Spanish translation. Hola, buenas tardes. Si se inscribieron para interpretación en español, por favor busquen a Daisy ahí atrás. Queremos asegurar que todos estén escuchando en el lenguaje que escogen. Gracias.
Thank you, Jessica.
Oh, I'm number 9. I don't know if 8 is.
I believe we are on number, apparently we have a 6A, but let's do number 9 and then 6A and then.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Ebersberger. My family and I live about 2 miles from the proposed Sunlight Lawn site. I'd like to thank you for hearing from us today. I think it's important that you hear what the community has to say. I want you to realize that the website for the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment states that many research studies find that living near oil and gas activity may be tied to asthma, preterm birth, low birth weight, and other health impacts. However, scientists do not know the specific cause of these outcomes. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between causation and association. If you look at a house and there are footprints in the snow, that's pretty good evidence that somebody has walked by. And yet it could be just a robot with some shoes on their feet. So that's association. It's not causation. It hasn't proved that the snow prints were caused by a human, but it's pretty good evidence. A May 2025 study by Dr. Lisa McKenzie found that in Colorado, there was increased leukemia in children living near oil and gas sites. The study found the risk extended up to 13 kilometers. That's pretty far. That's a little over 8 miles. And the nearer the children were, those living within 5 kilometers or 3.1 miles bear the greatest risk. Now, the study concluded that these children were 1.4 to 2.64 times more likely to live within 13 kilometers. The study didn't prove causation, but it proved association. And the question is this reliable evidence to base a decision on? And I submit that it is. Would you want your children to live in a neighborhood where they were 2 times more likely to contract leukemia? I think all of us say no, we would not. We lived here because it was safe, and there's no reason to introduce new air pollution, new risks that we know cause health effects into our environment. We already have bad air. We had how many ozone alerts this summer? In fact, one day I heard that we had the worst air in the country in the Denver metropolitan area. Now, some of that is caused by fire smoke from neighboring regions, but those are not going away. Climate change is going to make those risks worse, and this is something we can control. We need to get this far away from our neighborhoods. So many of us can't move, and we are being impacted. We are having adverse health effects forced on us by the introduction of oil and gas, which we know causes health risks. Senate Bill 19-181 was a big change for the ECMC. For the first time, you have to prioritize the public health and welfare, the environment, and wildlife. How will you avoid this risk and meet the mandate of Senate Bill 19-141? Will you choose to protect us from the likelihood of lifelong health issues just so a landowner who lives a few miles away can earn a bit more money than it could by just moving the site farther east? The cap is large. Please deny this permit or move it far away from our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we were wrong about the 6A. I think it's a 12A. So number 2.
Can you hear me okay? I'm Heidi Leithwood. I'm Climate Policy Analyst for 350 Colorado. We're a statewide nonprofit organization founded to work on the root causes of the climate crisis and move us more rapidly toward a sustainable future. We have many members who would be impacted by these proposed wells. One of the root causes is environmental injustice. When community members do not have a meaningful voice in policy decisions and are unable to affect change, no matter how powerfully they try to advocate, that's injustice. You're hearing tonight from the people in the community who have the time and capacity to be here, but there are tens of thousands more who live close enough that they will be impacted and maybe don't know about it or could not make the time to be here tonight. I know that you're in the process of examining recent health risk studies and their policy implications. I know that you're convening a health panel. The study authored by Dr. Lisa McKenzie concerning childhood leukemia was very extensive in its analysis of the intensity of oil and gas activities. It recommended that the setback distances be reconsidered. It showed that with a medium intensity of activity, there is increased risk of childhood leukemia 3 miles away, and with a high intensity, there's increased risk 8 miles away. I understand the proposed pad is 1 mile from 2 elementary schools, and also that there are 7,800 children living within 2 miles. Adding 32 new wells this close to homes in an area that already contains a number of existing wells and many, over 100 more proposed wells in the cap, is risky. From a look at the map, it appears that the area will be at least medium intensity, possibly high. It's definitely worth using that method developed by the study authors to assess the likely intensity caused by adding these 32 new wells. But this would take some time, and it might require contracting with the study authors, who are experts on this method, to perform the assessment. In light of the new information presented in the study, I urge you to either deny the well pad outright, or complete your health panel report and do further investigations prior to making any decisions on this well pad. Children's lives are at stake.
Thank you. And I think we had somebody over here who had an 8 that somehow, I think we did a 7, 5. Okay.
Well, thank you, commissioners and staff, as well as representatives from the county and other organizations that you mentioned, for taking time out to come and hear us speak and listen to our comments. I definitely appreciate it. I have a long evening ahead of you, so just thank you very much. My name is Jason Ephraim. I'm currently a South Shore resident, and I say currently because we're moving. We're moving because of the Lowry Ranch cap, because of the OGDP, after OGDP being approved. We have friends, and we see what happens up in Weld, and we see that, you know, despite our efforts to point to the risks, to the reservoir and everything like that, my family just didn't feel safe being here. So I just wanted to let you know that. I'm still going to be involved, though. and especially with this OGDP. I would like to raise a serious concern about the state Sunlight Long OGDP and its relationship to the Lower Ranch cap. It's been mentioned several times, even in the opening of this event, references to the cap and the OGDP, but where I struggle is, if you look at the application in its current state, and since the Maverick Mineral Partners litigation ensued, all references to the cap have been scrubbed from the OGDP application, at least from the last time I looked at it. Additionally, we had a lot of involvement at the county level. Tons of comments were promoted and put forward. I actually met with Brian directly with a couple other members just shortly after the State Senate Long application came to their desk, and discussed, and one of the things that we were assured was, yes, State Senate Long is a part of the cap, and therefore will have the electrification COA placed on its production and its drilling phase, and that would be grid power. But when you look at the application submitted at the county level, there's no mention other than if the producer can meet our timetable, if Excel can meet our timetable. And there's no count in the application, the administrative approval at the county level. It does cite this, but it says as per the Lowry Ranch cap. So what that means to me is, well, it sounds like they never committed to the same COA that the cap had at the county level. Furthermore, if you look at the state application, where it did have a relation to the cap and therefore would be subject to that COA of electrification, that no longer exists. So even if you're saying Lowry Ranch cap, State Sunlight Long, OGDP as a member of the cap, the fact is when I look at the application itself, I don't see that. And what makes me wonder is, could they go around, not electrify, and say, well, this is what we applied for, whether or not you said it's a part of the cap or this electrification COA, it's not. So I'd urge you to consider that, as well as reconsider completeness if it doesn't state that, because it undermines the entire ability of a cap as a entity to secure protection and to help do cumulative impacts if they can benefit from the exclusivity and the expedited review while ignoring things like COAs and other things that the caps include. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, I believe we're on 11 now. Okay. I believe we're on 11. Okay. I know there's a lot.
Hi, I will start off by saying that I am extremely concerned with the proposed Sunlight Long oil and gas development plan and its proximity to so many homes, schools, and the Aurora Reservoir. Ellen Webb and co-authors researched air pollutant emissions in Colorado in their paper titled Potential Hazards of Air Pollutant Emissions from Unconventional Oil and Natural Gas Operations on Respiratory Health of Children and Infants. These authors state, quote, "We recommend that at a minimum 1 mile setbacks should be established between drilling facilities and occupied dwellings," end quote. Sunlight Long will not meet this recommendation. Furthermore, Christopher Casotis and co-authors in studies like the one titled Endocrine Disrupting Chemicals and Oil and Natural Gas Operations found that in Colorado, endocrine disrupting chemicals make their way into surface water even when there are no spills or leaks. Based on this publicly available information and the fact that the operator does not plan to monitor Aurora Reservoir's water quality, and the fact that the ECMC has cited the operator of Sunlight Long with violations for falsified soil and water reports, I urge you to deny the currently proposed Sunlight Long location in favor of a safer alternative location, such as the operator identified alternative Site 1. Your mission as the ECMC is to regulate the development of oil and gas in a manner that protects public health, safety, welfare, wildlife, and the environment, and to represent all stakeholders, including Colorado state residents, who are the ones that suffer the consequences from oil and gas development. You accomplish this mission via your decision-making hierarchy that includes avoiding, minimizing, and mitigating adverse impacts. Therefore, if this OGDP gets approved in its current location, I ask you, are you really avoiding adverse impacts by approving a well pad location so close to homes and the Aurora Reservoir? Are you really minimizing adverse impacts by approving a well pad when the operator identified an alternative one with a safer setback? Are you mitigating any remaining adverse impacts by approving this well pad when a viable, safer alternative exists? These are your steps to issue resolution. Use them. Show Colorado residents that you take their feedback seriously and move Sunlight Long to a safer location, such as alternative location 1. Show us that you are willing to compromise and find a solution that, although is not perfect for local residents and is not perfect for the operator, is a viable, profitable, safer alternative. Avoid, minimize, mitigate, your words, your decision-making hierarchy. I ask you one last time, are you doing these things by approving this well pad at its current location? Thank you for your time.
Okay, I believe we're on.
What's that?
I believe we're on 12.
Yes, we're on 12. Okay, let's talk about Gailton, guys. This bill was not supposed to happen, and the Titanic was not sink. As we're all aware, on April 6th, as we are all aware, on April 6th, a Chevron well blew out and spewed a geyser of chemical soup for 5 days. The fountain sprayed 50 feet into the air, coating lands and homes for 10 miles. CSU tested these liquids and reported that benzene levels 2 miles away were 10 times above federal standards for safety. Meanwhile, Chevron says the chemical at the sites are safe. Yet on the news, we saw people in full hazmat gear washing fences. We saw buildings wrapped in plastic and are told the cleanup will take over 5 years. So why the massive cleanup if the chemical levels are safe? The ECMC tells us the cleanup is through an abundance of caution. It is amazing the narrative coming from Chevron and then assuming the public is too ignorant not to see such blatant lies. Now imagine this happening by our reservoir, our homes. Gailton is a small, sparsely populated rural community. The neighborhoods by the reservoir obviously are not. Is Civitas going to wrap thousands of homes, schools, churches, restaurants, and grocery stores in plastic after a spill like this? How many people in hazmat suits will it take to clean every building, fence, car, anything else that happened to be outside and is now coated in this chemical soup? The reservoir will now be toxic. 400,000 people, all of us, without water to drink. The animals, birds, and fish dependent on the reservoir will likely die. Well, the fish certainly would. No more green lawns, because we won't be able to water them. Trees will die. No more green parks. Imagine walking through this brown, deserted, completely dead neighborhood, because certainly we'll all have to move out if our houses are wrapped in plastic and toxic. Well, then what? When can we move back in? It will take much more than 5 years to clean this mess up. Where are all the thousands upon thousands of us supposed to live? Where will our kids go to school? How will we afford another home when most of us probably have a large mortgage on a home that is not unlivable? Our homes certainly will not be worth what we paid for them. Humans are fallible. This can happen again. Unexpected things happen every day. How about we practice an abundance of caution right now before something like this can happen? No one can honestly say a dangerous spill will not happen. The current location proposed is completely unacceptable. Thank you.
12A. Hello ECMC and hello fellow community members. My name is Andrew Pinkowitz and I live in the Centennial and Southeast Aurora area, very close to the Aurora Reservoir. Right here is my son Eli. Eli, can you say hi? Can you say hi? Hi. We came here directly from daycare to voice our fierce opposition to this fracking site. As we all know, the science is clear. The health effects of living near a fracking site causes a near incalculable assortment of health issues, including but not limited to asthma, heart disease, and childhood cancer. This proposal is grossly negligent and recklessly endangers our entire community here in Aurora. There is a grave risk of this fracking site contaminating our primary source of drinking water and polluting the air of the thousands of households that live within a 2-mile radius of the proposed mega well pad. The consequence would be catastrophic for the health of our community and pillage one of our most precious natural resources for nothing more than lining corporate pockets. I refuse to be silent about this. I implore you to immediately halt plans of this fracking site. If you fail to do so, you will have carcinogens on your hands and harm the health of our local community for generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 13.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Bobby Mooney, representing 350 Colorado. 350 Colorado is a Colorado-based nonprofit organization working locally to solve the climate crisis and transition to a sustainable future. We have over 18,000 members across the state, some of whom are here tonight, and even more are submitting written comments to you regarding this proposed well pad. 350 Colorado stands strongly against this well pad with our own members, with concerned Coloradans near and far, with Save the Aurora Reservoir, and with the hundreds of residents attending this hearing to deliver a clear message to you. Do not approve the proposed state sunlight long fracking mega pad. The oil and gas industry is the greatest source of greenhouse gases in Colorado. More than transportation, more than electricity generation, more than all residential, commercial, and industrial fuel use combined. Just the extraction of oil and gas emits more climate pollution than any of those other activities. Just think of that. As greenhouse gases blanket the earth, they trap the sun's heat. This leads to global warming and climate change. The world is now warming faster than at any point in recorded history. Warmer temperatures are changing weather patterns and disrupting the usual balance of living systems across the globe. This poses many risks to human beings and all other forms of life on Earth. The harms and costs of climate change to Coloradans are serious. Prolonged drought, extreme heat, supercharged wildfires, and then floods, less snowpack, more disease, more pressure on mental health, and changes to crop yields, fisheries, livestock, herding, and hunting. Climate-caused disasters alone have cost this state between $2 billion and $5 billion since 1980. And on top of that, pollution emitted by oil and gas operations in Colorado will cause well over $13 billion of damage between 2020 and 2030, based on calculations of the social cost of oil and gas pollution that are set in state law. Every additional oil and gas well drilled in Colorado further contributes to the climate crisis. The global scientific consensus is clear. We must transition away from fossil fuels in order to avoid the most catastrophic impacts of climate change. This means no new fossil fuel extraction or transportation infrastructure built. And governments grant no new permits for fossil fuels. For the health, safety, and economy of Colorado, now and for future generations, deny this well pad. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do think we have a 13A.
Hello, my name is Orion and I'm 5 years old. Please don't, please don't drill by our neighborhood.
Hello, ECMC. I'm experiencing some deja vu right now. Are you? I've lost track of how many public hearings I've been at, standing here, watching you, imploring you to deny the wells that are literally going to be drilled under our neighborhood. My name is Corey Hopper. My husband and I purchased a home in the South Shore neighborhood 9 years ago. We've had 2 kids while living in this house. We love being outside with them. We love enjoying the Aurora Reservoir with them. We own the mineral rights to our property. We are not interested in leasing these rights. Many of our neighbors own their mineral rights as well. They don't want to give those away. So imagine our collective dismay
when we learned that our individual mineral rights do not matter, and the Sunlight Long well pad will have more than 10 wells drilled under our neighborhood, possibly underneath our very homes. We don't want that to happen. We don't want well pads less than a mile from our neighborhood. We don't want well pads less than a mile from the schools where we send our children, praying they will be safe when they're not with us. So I grew up playing computer games like Roller Coaster Tycoon and SimCity. Anybody remember those? Okay, it doesn't take long to figure out any simulation games that when the public is unhappy, things fall apart. I don't know how we can make it any more clear that we, the public, are unhappy with the Sunlight Long well pad. We've been told that there are viable locations further east that the well pad could be looked at. That's great. Why aren't you moving things east? Why are you allowing an unprecedented concentration of wells to be located so close to densely populated neighborhoods and schools? Why are you allowing oil and gas interests to take priority over the residents that live here in Colorado? As the ECMC, your mission is to regulate oil and gas in a matter that protects public health. The public doesn't want this. The public will be harmed by this. The public will remember the people that allowed this to happen. I hope you remember the public that stood up and told you not to do this. Once again, I am a resident and a mom standing before you, the ECMC, begging you to live up to your mission. Protect public health, deny the Sunlight Long well pad.
Okay, to be on speaker 14.
Hi, and thank you. My name is Ashley DeLopp. I'm a wildlife ecologist and I'm a science teacher, but that's not why I'm here. You've got a lot of great scientists here. We've accumulated a lot of great science knowledge, and you guys have that all available to you. I'm here because I'm a resident of Beacon Point neighborhood. I have a beautiful house with my husband, who's a middle school teacher, and my 2 kids that is 3 houses down from an entrance to the reservoir, kind of a place of our dreams. 15 years ago, we lived someplace else. We lived in a neighborhood when my kids were babies that decided to frack in the neighborhood. I had the ability to research and learn as much as I could about fracking back then, and we moved. We took our kids out of that situation, and we moved here. We thought maybe the reservoir would help protect us from this happening again. Working 30 years to get to where we're at, with our kids in our home, we have 3 things of value: our health, our children, and our home. And we're not going to let this go. So thank you for your time, and make the right choice and stop this project.
Okay, as we get speaker 15 up here, we're getting close to 6:30, so we'll do, I think, 3 more speakers, and then we'll take a very short break to try and assess where we are.
Hi everyone, my name is Irene and I'm a resident of South Shore. My backyard is 3,200 feet away from the Sunlight Long pad. My husband and I actually just moved here last November. We left New York City and came out to Colorado so that we could get away from all the pollution and maybe even start a family in a place that seemed to value clean water, air, and land for its inhabitants. But the message from Civitas, State and Board, Arapahoe County, and the ECMC seems to be, let them drink oil. But Aurora's 400,000 residents deserve clean and safe water, not hazardous chemicals from fracking near our reservoir. The Sunlight Long well pad must be relocated away from the reservoir, or at minimum, a separate haul road must be constructed and used to keep fracking fluids far away from our water supply. Colorado faces a severe water crisis. Prolonged drought, shrinking snowpack, climate change, and overuse have pushed the Colorado River Basin, which provides about 25% of Aurora's water, into a Tier 1 shortage with mandatory cuts. The reservoir holds roughly 10.3 billion gallons, about 20% of Aurora's supply, and yet this is not protected. Aurora's citizens have worked hard to conserve water, reducing use by 36% since the early 2000s. Yet Civitas's Lowry Ranch cap will require about 4 billion gallons of water over 6 years to frack over 160 wells. Civitas estimates 21.62 million gallons just for the Sunlight Long pad. There's no way our community can save enough water in more than a decade to offset the water needed for this. Furthermore, fracking fluid trucks carry 3,000 to 21,000 gallons of fluid each and will be required to make hundreds of trips along this haul road. While a single truck spill seems small relative to the reservoir's volume, it holds toxic chemicals like benzene. To put just benzene's toxicity into perspective, the EPA regulates benzene in drinking water at 5 parts per billion due to its severe health risks. Again, this is just one ingredient that will be used for fracking. Fracking fluids are considered proprietary, which means we have no idea what else is in these fluids. How can anyone be sure that our water is safe without even knowing the complete chemical makeup of these fluids? Accidents and spills are almost inevitable if hundreds of trips are made over the course of years. This haul road runs only 500 feet above our reservoir. Any single spill could cause dangerous contamination of our already limited water supply. The ECMC and officials have not demonstrated enough care for these risks. We're all pleading with you to please make the right choice, and if you can't deny this outright, please just relocate it safely. Our water supply cannot be compromised. We demand responsible planning that prioritizes protecting our water, health, and environment over industrial convenience and profit. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Commissioner Ackerman. Hi, Commissioner Frost. My name is Dr. Sakawat Hussain. I'm a physician, board certified in internal medicine. It will surprise you if I say that I am for fracking, a sensible fracking, not an indiscriminate and greedy fracking. If Civitas had a little bit of common sense, they would have moved it, and they would have moved it about a mile away, and nobody will be here bothering you guys. But this is too much. This is a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is a nuclear option. This is a black hole in the space, which an event horizon which is going to suck the entire Aurora and entire Colorado. You have to be sensible to deny it, and deny it because too much have been said already, and move it as far away as possible from the people and from the children. Let me just walk you through why it's so grave and dangerous. It's grave and dangerous because there will be thousands of children in Colorado which will be exposed to it. And this is not a speculation. It's established science. In March this year, researchers from the Colorado State of Public Health published a peer-reviewed article in a cancer journal. Their study meets every single Bradford Hill criteria, which Sir Austin Bradford Hill laid in 1969 for any epidemiological study. And he said specifically, you don't have to meet all the criteria. But this study meets all the 9 criteria. So you cannot say this is not a good study. You can bring your hired guns, your expert witness, and say things which are not true. Let me just walk you through what benzene does, which is a product of the volatile organic compound emitted by the oil and gas wells. Here are some reasons why the children are so uniquely vulnerable. Their developing bone marrow is highly sensitive to benzene's toxic effect. Their immune system is immature and cannot repair injury caused by toxins as effectively. Their developmental bone marrow is entirely susceptible to these benzene toxins, and it lasts for a long time. The Colorado's current setbacks are woefully inadequate. The study notes that there are 378,000 children which are under age of 5 and live within 1 mile. The study also showed that within 1 mile range, the breakdown products of benzene in the pregnant women were 5 times as high. If your cholesterol level is 100 and it goes to 500, you may not have a heart attack, but your doctor will. And it's 5 times high. Please consider these things. Pregnant women exposed in their womb for 9 months with the fetus. And I would say that please deny the sunlight launch at its current location and move it. At the end, I'm going to close. Commissioners, you cannot go back, as C.S. Lewis said in his quote, and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. Please change the ending from a nightmare to a great American bliss for our children and great children. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and ECMC commissioners. My name is Preeti, and I'm a resident of Southeast Aurora. Dr. Saki Hussain began his powerful and informative testimony on the leukemia study, so allow me to finish it here. We all know what comes next. Crestone will roll out their experts to dismiss and discredit this research. They will argue, they will spin it however they like, and attempt to bury the facts with the help of industry lobbyists and lawyers. But the reality is this. The study in question was peer-reviewed, comprehensive, and published by one of the most respected cancer research organizations and meets all Bradford Hill criteria. The authors knew that their work would face fierce pushback from the oil and gas industry, yet they went ahead and published it anyway. That is the mark of credible science and professional integrity. If this commission claims that the study is not good enough, then you have a responsibility to initiate additional long-term studies yourselves. And until you can prove to each and every single parent, grandparent, and family represented in this building here today that our children are safe from harm, you have no right to approve Sunlight Long. You hold immense responsibility. We will accept nothing less than a full rejection of this dangerous well pad location.
Hi, commissioners. Can you hear me okay? All right. My name is Sarah Palmquist, and I'm speaking as an individual citizen. I am an engineer. I've worked for 21 years at Caterpillar, and I live in South Shore, and my house is one of the closest houses to this proposed pad. My husband and I lived abroad for many years. We built our nest egg, and we came here and we built our dream house and our dream community for our kids to grow up in. I have adult onset asthma, and when I moved here, it deteriorated really, really fast. The team of doctors I was working with at National Jewish, they prescribed me as much as they could, which I still take today, twice a day, and it still wasn't enough for me to be outside on a good day. I had real fear that I would end up like my grandmother. You heard from my father, who held the hand of his mother when he was 4 as she coughed to death. My doctors have worked I have fought for my health with my doctors, overturned denial after denial to get me access to medicine that I inject twice a month just so I can now go outside on good days. My son loves to play soccer, he loves to fish in the reservoir, and I like to do those things with him. This is my daily reality. He also suffers from asthma. And with this proposed Sunlight Long pad, the fracking operations will release fine particulate matter into the atmosphere. It is known to worsen asthma and trigger respiratory distress and cause long-term damage to developing lungs. On high ozone days, I already cannot spend time outside with my family. This site is going to bring 8 months of continuous drilling across 2 ozone seasons, 46,000 vehicle trips along a haul road that is close to a half mile from my backyard. And now, with all of this in question about will or the pad be electrified or not, this means potential prolonged diesel emissions and further polluting the air that we breathe. You have to think of the cumulative effects as well, with 7 additional well pads within a 5-mile radius of the Sunlight Long pad, meaning 119 more wells close to our homes. This project is an attack on our community's health, especially our pulmonary health. SB 19181 requires this commission to prioritize the health and safety and environment and not allow vulnerable families, my family, to be collateral damage in the name of industry profits. I urge you to reject the Sunlight Long pad at this location. Protect our air, protect our health, and protect our children. Thank you.
So again, after Anne's done speaking here, we're going to take a quick break and kind of assess where we are with the numbers.
Thank you. Hello, Commissioners. My name is Anna Hussein. I'm a nurse, and I will live 3,100 feet from the proposed Sunlight Long site. Sarah is my daughter. Today, I also want to talk about air quality for thousands of residents who live near the densely populated area of Sunlight Long. American Lung Association gives Aurora an F, the 6th worst city in the country for high ozone days, and an F for 24-hour particle pollution. The EPA has reclassified the Denver metro area from moderate to serious non-attainment. What's driving all this pollution? 3 major factors: oil and gas exploration, construction, and vehicle traffic. Exactly what Sunlight Long will bring. Sunlight Long's pre-production will take 15 months. Oil and gas exploration, the haul route is 2,500 feet from our homes and travels 1,000 to 500 feet of the entire length of our reservoir. Traffic numbers are staggering. 46,000 vehicle trips over 24,000 semis. Some phases will bring over 100 construction vehicle trips every single day for over 7 months. That means 8 months of continuous drilling spanning 2 ozone seasons when our air is at its most dangerous levels. And still, no guarantee that this will even be an electrified well pad, which was a provision for ECM approving this cap. Within a 5-mile radius of Sunlight Long, there will be 7 other well pads with 119 wells in various pre-production phases. Remember Senate Bill 19181, your mandate to consider cumulative impacts when approving projects, yet this application ignores that. Commissioner Ackerman, you have publicly stated twice, once in the CAP hearing and once on La Plata South well pad, you voted yes. You said because counties can decide the best location for their residents. That's simply not true. Arapahoe County has ignored our concerns about the CU Anschutz childhood leukemia study, dangerous haul routes, pipelines within 500 feet of the reservoir. Instead of protecting residents from this uniquely dangerous well pad, Arapahoe County commissioners hide behind the excuse that it meets state regulations. They refuse to consider the sheer scale and location of Sunlight Long. Do not pass this responsibility to our county. This is not Boulder County. At this rate, Arapahoe will soon resemble Weld County. Protecting residents' health is not our county's priority. Oil and gas exploration should be treated as a privilege in Colorado, not a guaranteed right. Commissioners, scrutinize this application as if your own families lived in our homes because ours do. If this commission refuses to put public health before industry profits, fracking will become Colorado's original sin. History will remember whether you protected families or allowed further damage to occur when you knew the facts. Thank you.
Okay, again, we're going to take a short break just to assess where we are with the number of speakers. Again, There are some people outside that I do know want to speak, and so if we do get a chance, if you have spoken, maybe you can step outside and continue to listen to comments, but also give others an opportunity to come as well. And I believe we're on 20 next. Awesome. Everyone, if we can start taking our seats again, we'll get ready to begin. Okay, everyone, if we can get ready to get going again, we do have a lot of speakers left. I believe we're on 20 now. I'm hoping.
I saw your video was ready. You had
the
grandson in the middle. Thanks for showing up every day.
Okay, so everyone, we do have 45 speakers left, which doesn't give us a lot of time. Again, if we can make sure that we stick to the 3 minutes, we are going to be much stricter on the 3 minutes. We're going to reevaluate at 7:45, and if we're still running low on time for speakers, then we're going to cut the time limit to 2 minutes. So again, just try to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to have their voice heard. We're going to try and be very strict with the 3 minutes. So let's get this rolling again with speaker number 20, and if everyone can please get back to their seats, that would be greatly appreciated.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, guys, we're gonna get going again. Speaker number 20 is up.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nate Lyon, and I'm a resident of Southeast Aurora. Since I anticipate my comments being longer than 3 minutes, my friend Yvonne will pick up the second half with her comments next so that we stay on time. I will address in my comments why the current proposed Sunlight Lawn location is unacceptable and, despite making it all the way to this phase of the process somehow, should not be viewed as approvable by this commission. Reason number one, proximity to wildlife, not protective of wildlife. As stated in Crestone's own words describing the wildlife in the area, 3 species of CPW, threatened, endangered, and species of special concern, sensitive species list could occur within or near the project site. Black-tailed prairie dog, northern leopard frog, and swift fox. All 3 are listed as species of state special concern. They also state the proposed pad occurs within a black-tailed prairie dog colony, which provides potential nesting habitat for burrowing owls. Nesting burrowing owls have been previously documented near the project site. And you can see that in figure 4 that you guys have. Feel free to review after. And finally, they state a black-tailed prairie dog colony will be disturbed during construction, also in figure 4. So how can you possibly deem this site as protective of wildlife when it is planned literally on top of a prairie dog colony and within a quarter mile of northern leopard frogs surveyed in 2012 through 2015, 2018, 2024, and most recently, 2 days ago? The current proposed location is unacceptable. Reason number 2, proximity to Aurora Reservoir and Coal Creek, not protective of public health nor the environment. While the pad is proposed just over 3,000 feet from Aurora Reservoir, the site is located at a significantly higher elevation than the reservoir. In addition, the access road comes within 500 feet of the reservoir. If you believe your current regulations are enough to prevent a catastrophic spill from contaminating the water supply of 400,000 Aurora residents, I would encourage you to take a look back at the airborne fracking spill at the Bishop Well pad this spring in Weld County. Are there any protections in place besides weak setback rules that would prevent an airborne spill from reaching the reservoir surface? Again, heading downhill and downwind from the pad site. You must address this question before voting on this location. Sure, you have your regulations, but to ignore the very real possibility of airborne contamination would be completely reckless. Recent events must be taken into account. The current proposed location is unacceptable. I will yield to Yvonne Yap to continue these comments.
you, commissioners, for being here, and a big thank you for everyone who is here and showed up because they care. My name is Yvonne, and I will continue with the next reason why the Sunlight Long well pad is unacceptable. Reason 3, proximity to homes, schools, and places of worship, not protective of public health and welfare. Since public welfare is a term used in your mission, I think it's important to remind you of the meaning of this word. Welfare is the health, happiness, and fortunes of a person or group. Simply put, this particular Sunlight Long well pad flies in the face of all 3 of these areas. Health. I will not go into all the specifics because I know many folks are addressing this tonight. But fracking poses real and serious negative health impacts, especially to those living within 3 miles of a pad site. In the case of this pad, 32 wells are proposed within 3 miles of approximately 28,000 people, as well as numerous elementary schools, a middle school and a high school, and several places of worship, not protective of health. Happiness. Are you seeing a lot of happy people here tonight? These industrial well pads being proposed so close to communities, and especially Sunlight Long, are creating anger, fear, anxiety, depression, hopelessness, and a whole host of negative emotions, but not happiness. Fortunes. Home values near this site will likely drop. A published study in the Journal of Real Estate Literature found that most people would refuse to buy a home near a fracking site, and those willing to buy reduced their offers by up to 25%. You may think that this is your concern, is not your concern, but public welfare is in your mission. And this site is not protective of fortunes. In fact, many of us fear that a catastrophic spill would make it impossible to even sell our homes at any price, not protective of welfare. So now that Nate and I have proven that the currently proposed Sunlight Long application is not protective of any portion of the ECMC mission, how could it possibly still be approved? And what other options do you have as commissioners to follow your mission? First of all, you can deny the pad. Your mission really is not ambiguous, and you have discretionary authority to vote no. If the only requirements for an application to pass were to make it to this phase of the process, then why take public comments? Why have commissioners at all? The truth is, you can and should live up to your mission and be protective of us, the citizens. However, if there are some pressures to play here, and this site must go through for some reason, then our community will probably never understand. At least please consider viable alternative locations much further east, because the current location proposed is unacceptable. Thank you for your time.
Speaker 22. Yep. And speakers 23 and 24, if you can be ready as well.
Thank you. My name is Bill Kresser, and I have a PhD in engineering, and I spent my career as a professor and as a consultant helping industries who asked me to help them modify their processes so that they would not harm the neighborhood. That's something similar to what we're talking about, I guess. But the information we're getting is so overwhelming. What do? The residents seem almost all opposed. Industry seems almost all in favor. The politicians want the fuel and the taxes. So what's going to happen? If we look at the past, the path forward would seem to be it just gets approved like most of the past ones and we go on with our life. But actually, the history of American industrial progress has been filled with times where we rush forward and then take a U-turn and go back. Take DDT. In the 1940s, it was a lifesaver. In the 1970s, it was a killer. Lead was made paint whiter, but then it was found to affect the brains of children, so now it's banned. You can't buy leaded white paint. Lead and gasoline made our cars have more power, but now you can't put leaded gasoline in your car. Pacific Gas and Electric adamantly defended their use of hexavalent chromium for 14 years until Erin Brockovich proved that that it was harmful and that they were that they knew, and they ended up paying what $300 million. Union Carbide paid $470 million for their Bhopal incident. Monsanto knew PCBs were harmful since 1937, but they manufactured and sold them until 1979. A number of states have now recovered damages, including $700 million just from Oregon recently. DuPont paid $11 billion to public water systems for pollution of the forever chemicals. So we're now discussing an industry which has followed the footsteps of these others, but the science hasn't quite caught up. When will the $1 trillion penalty be levied? There will be a U-turn, we just don't know what day. Maybe it'll be today. I didn't come here to ask you to vote against this permit application. I just came to ask you if you would talk face to face, in person, with the scientists and physicians who live in this area, who work in this area, who study the fracking wells that were already drilled in this area, and study then the people immediately around them and have recorded the results. Would you be willing to talk to them?
That's why we're here. We're not here to answer questions.
Okay, you can't answer questions, but if anybody needs any help in getting to them, we'll help.
Okay, speaker 23.
Okay, good evening, number 23. Good evening, thank you for being here, commissioners. I appreciate your time, and thank you for our community for showing up. I know many of us have more friends and family that were not able to come, but we're representing the many who are not here. My name is Aldo Placencia. I am a resident of the South Shore community, and I just want to say, no means no. No means no. Just let that sink in a little bit, please. No, we do not want fracking in our backyards. We do not want fracking within 3,000 feet of our homes, our schools, our backyards, where children are playing all the time. We don't want this around our drinking water. We don't want this around wildlife. We don't want it. We don't consent to it. I really ask you that you use your position to protect us, just like we would protect our children. As a father, I'm asking you, please do what's right for the community. Don't do it for industry. Don't do it for whatever potential kickbacks you're getting, if any. Please take us in mind. Take this as for your own community and say no to fracking. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessie Temple Trujillo, and I'm a public health nurse serving primarily Arapahoe County. And listening to everybody in the community who's come up and spoken today, I realized that I can't really add a lot of facts and information that you don't already have access to. My job is to support new parents, mostly under-resourced parents. And there are a lot of parents in this room. I know that you know how many risks and how many harms can come to you or your baby, your family. And so I talk to parents all day about things like a soft baby blanket in the crib and the risks that can pose. how taking soft objects out of the crib can mitigate those risks somewhat. You know, air pollution or environmental health is one of the few things that when I think about how to talk to parents about mitigating that risk, I'm just usually at a loss. Other than telling them to move, there's not a ton that they can do, especially being under-resourced. So I would just encourage you, you know, just as I encourage my parents or the parents I work with to consider the information and the facts that are pretty well known at this point. You know, we know that particulate matter can cross the placental barrier. You know, we know that air pollution from the construction of well pads significantly increases the risk of birth defects and encephaly, where babies are born without a fully formed brain or skull. And I truly hope that you've never had the misfortune of seeing a baby suffer and die like that. It's horrific. So I just implore you to really consider the facts on this and make an informed decision that's best for the community. Thank you.
Okay, we'll have 25, 26, 27. Okay, we got 26. We have 25. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Aridin Bacon, and I'm a resident of South Shore. Over the past year, I have fought a difficult battle with breast cancer, a journey that has made me acutely aware of how fragile our health truly is and how deeply our environment impacts our well-being. The proposal to introduce fracking operations into our neighborhood raises serious health concerns that we cannot afford to overlook. Fracking is known to release harmful chemicals into the air and poses risks of contaminating drinking water. Studies have linked exposure to certain pollutants with increased risks of respiratory illness, neurological problems, and in some cases, cancer. For families like mine who already know the weight of a cancer diagnosis, these risks feel especially urgent and personal. We all want a safe place to live, raise our children, and recover when illnesses do strike. Our community deserves to breathe clean air, drink safe water, and sleep without the constant noise and lights of industrial activity. Allowing fracking here would place our health, our property, and our peace of mind at risk. I urge you to put the health of our people first. No potential short-term economic gain is worth gambling our long-term safety. As someone who has already faced the consequences of compromised health, I ask you to consider not just the data, but the human lives behind it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, 27. 25, you're still out there.
My name is Krista Burke, and I live about a mile, a little less from the proposed well. And obviously this is the biggest, it's the closest, it's the most dangerous. This is probably my fourth hearing that I've been to, and the outcome has not ever been what we had hoped it would be. I'm hoping that this time, it's different. This is the biggest, it's the closest. It puts the most of us at risk for not a good reason, because it could be moved or it could be canceled. We rely on you because we can't trust the county commissioners to do what we've asked them to do. We need somebody to say, yeah, your community matters, your kids matter, your families matter. And so I ask you, the risks far outweigh the benefits of this one. And, it might be our last chance to stop it. And I'm hoping that this, because this one is different. It's different than the other ones. Just think about that. Thank you.
Okay, if we don't have 25, there was no 27 8 and 29, so we'll be on 30 next.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Shayna Stacy. I am a mother. I am a perinatal epidemiologist, and I am a recently moved here from the East Coast, resident of Centennial. And like I said, although I am a recent resident to the state of Colorado, I am no stranger to fracking. 10 years ago, our team at the University of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania published what was at the time only the second study examining adverse birth outcomes in densely fracked communities in southwestern Pennsylvania. The first such study came out of Colorado, of course. We found that mothers living close to a high density of unconventional wells in southwestern Pennsylvania were 34% more likely to have babies born smaller than you would expect for their gestational age, compared to the least exposed mothers in our study who lived more than 10 miles away from unconventional activity. And that was just the beginning. That was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were already seeing the health effects from fracking. And so when I heard that there was going to be activity half a mile away from schools, from where people are living, that is honestly, as a researcher, insane to me. During the last 10 years, the scientific evidence linking unconventional oil and gas development to adverse health effects, including in infants and children, has continued to build. And we've already heard about some of these studies tonight. I will highlight a few more results from a recent series of studies, also from the University of Pittsburgh, that did an expansive set of studies due to the outrage over the increase in childhood cancers in Washington County, Pennsylvania. They looked at birth outcomes. They once again confirmed that babies were being born in these communities smaller than we would expect. They looked at asthma. They found that people with asthma had a 4 to 5 times greater chance of having an asthma attack if they lived within 10 miles of an active unconventional gas well. And they looked at childhood cancers. They found that children living within a half mile of unconventional wells were 7 times more likely to develop lymphoma compared to children living more than 5 miles away. And several people also already mentioned the Colorado study that found a 100% increase in the risk of a certain subtype of leukemia for the most versus the least exposed. Someone earlier tonight mentioned association versus causation, which as a scientist I am very well versed in. These associations are continuing to build. We already know that many of the chemicals involved in the fracking process are known carcinogens. Do not turn this community into another natural experiment for the health effects of fracking. If you cannot deny this permit, it needs to be farther than 3,000 feet. That is way too close. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners Ackerman, Cross, Hearing Manager Thomas. My name is Katie Collins, and I'm a resident of Beacon Point neighborhood in Aurora. I'm here to urge you to reject the drilling application for the state Sunlight Long pad, or at the very least, require it to be relocated to a site farther from homes, schools, and the Aurora Reservoir. We've already talked about the stats and facts. The 35-acre site is a half a mile from the reservoir that supplies water to the community, 3,000 feet from homes, schools, businesses, and Southlands, where hundreds and thousands of people work and live. The science is clear. Unconventional oil and gas development near populated areas poses serious health risks. Already cited tonight, the 2017 study in Colorado, the March 25 study from Dr. Lisa McKenzie that showed children ages 2 to 9 in Colorado living near oil and natural gas well sites faced increased risk of childhood cancer. That study from 25, Dr. McKenzie also showed that the risk escalates based on the density and the proximity of the well sites to children, which State Sunlight has both proximity and density. And Dr. Stacy just mentioned the University of Pittsburgh study, the Talbot study, that showed a chance of 5 to 7 times more likely to develop lymphoma for children living within half a mile. The study also showed that asthma sufferers living within 10 miles were 4 to 5 times more likely to suffer severe attacks. These risks disproportionately affect communities near the drilling sites like ours. Under Colorado Senate Bill 19-181 and Senate Bill 24-1346, the ECMC's mission is no longer to promote oil and gas. It's to regulate in a way that protects public health, safety, welfare, and the environment. So I ask you directly, based on the ECMC's mitigation hierarchy, if you were approving this well site close to thousands of homes of drinking water source, how can you say you are avoiding adverse impacts? If avoidance is not being pursued, what specific measures are being taken to minimize and mitigate? Number 1, avoidance means rejecting the application or relocating the pad. Minimization means requiring cleaner electric power, real-time air monitoring, with reporting and transparency to the public. Mitigation may include funding pediatric cancer research and long-term health impact tracking of the residents that live near the site. Anything less is a failure to uphold your legal mandate. Commissioners, this is your moment to show the public health is not negotiable. I urge you to deny or relocate this well pad application. Our community deserves clean air and safe water and protection from preventable harm. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Thank you, Ms. Cohen. All right, so we have 32, 33, 34. 32, 33, 34. Still looking for 25 as well. Otherwise, we could go 35.
I am 33.
33. Perfect. Randy, it's yours.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you hosting the meeting tonight. And thank you all. Turn out. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll get closer. Hi, my name is Randy Willard. I am a resident of Southeast Aurora. And I, again, would like to thank you for hosting the 511 hearing, especially Kristen, because we've gone through lots on this one. So tonight I'd like to talk about rules and how they can be very effective in many ways. Let's start with a few examples. Say making a functional society. And in schools, they keep students in line and ensure that the schedule is held. And they're supposed to make operators keep their promises to protect health, safety, and the environment that they always tell us is a priority, and which are your job for the mission of ECMC as we've heard tonight. With football season upon us, we have another instance in which rules are paramount. They're critical to the safety of the players and the action of the game. NFL referees are often cited for interrupting the play or flow of the game by calling penalties. However, if they don't call that hit with the helmet, it will just happen again. The rules are there to protect the game and the players. Looking closer to home, we find last year that the ECMC has found its rules violated repeatedly in Weld County by the 3 biggest operators in the state. Over 400 sites with many spills and other issues have been hidden or obfuscated at best. After months of investigation, the ECMC told us it was 2 people that apparently schemed on their own to defraud the state. We know Chevron Noble brought us the Gallatin experience, and that Noble owns more than half the lakes in Weld County in the last year. Civitas is known as a routine violator of rules across the country, which is proven out with spills and nationally, both here and nationally. BMPs be damned when there are leaks almost daily, including one at our very own La Plata South just less than a month ago. What will it take to hold these companies to account for their repeated abuses? Now let us take a look at HB 22-1348, legislation that required the industry to report all fracking and drilling chemicals This bill was not enforced at all until a study by Sierra Club, CSR Colorado, and The Guardian exposed the dismal performance of the industry. As of April of this year, only 41% of new drilling and fracking activity had been reported as is required by this bill. The report also included the fact that the industry owed the state via the ECMC some $37 million of fines for violating the law. Surely Governor Polis would like to add this to the budget at this point. 60 days after the article, the industry is at 93% compliance. Makes you wonder how difficult it really was then, doesn't it? The story continues because it appears they've only been reporting fracking fluid, not reporting drilling fluids at all. The legislation was intended to, at a minimum, make us aware of what was being used in our areas, and it was supposed to occur in a timely fashion so that we could act upon it. None of these constraints have been met, and in our own area, Civitas has violated that same rule on 8 pads in Arapahoe County. Why would anyone believe they would start to comply after these permits are issued? I've been fine over the last 2 years learning how oil and gas works in our state, and I have complied with the rules. Well, I would suggest the rules, no, not the rules, but rather their enforcement is what let me down. I would ask that we enforce the rules we have and look at the violators before we permit to repeated offenders, and please collect fines. They can afford them. With all of these concerns, as well as the others that are expressed tonight, the current location of Sunlight Lawn is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Do we have 34, 35, 36?
Hi, good evening, commissioners. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't think I have anything to add that has not already been said, but I'm a single mom to a young son, and my main priority as a mother is to do everything to advocate for my son's health and safety. And I just wanted to read one talking point that was shared on Save the Aurora Reservoir page that stood out to me. Crestone has secured multiple waivers to bypass state and county rules in order to place the Sunlong well pad this close to homes in the Aurora Reservoir. With more than 26,000 acres available in Flowery Ranch Cap, Crestone could easily relocate farther away to reduce harm to residents. However, they refuse to do so because it would cost more if they prevent them from extracting every last mineral. Make no mistake, Crestone would still make huge profits at an alternative location. Their priority has always been efficiency over public health. I am begging you to consider, you see all these people in this room that have stood up here tonight worried about their health. I also been working 20 years in claims for people that get sick due to toxic substances. So I see this daily in my work, and I'm greatly affected by that. I see the harm that it does to people. And this is something that you can stop. You have the power to stop this and relocate this site away from schools, families, and our community that clearly do not want fracking. Thank you.
Do we have number 35, 36, 37, 36?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Brian Matisse. I'm speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Arapahoe and Douglas Counties, a nonpartisan organization. The League has several comments and concerns, and I want to address 3 of them tonight. First of all, we are concerned about inadequate air quality monitoring, especially for benzene and volatile organic chemicals. As you know, benzene is a potent carcinogen linked that's produced by oil and gas operations, linked to several forms of cancer, especially leukemia. Recent studies that you've heard about tonight demonstrate that exposure to these VOCs, and especially benzene, up to 5 kilometers away significantly increases the risk of childhood leukemia. And residential homes for this particular project are located within 1 kilometer of the site. Activities such as trucking of oil-contaminated water, euphemistically known as produced water, but it's oil-contaminated water, will add to that significantly as well. So the League believes that the presence of benzene from oil and gas drilling operations makes it critical that air quality monitoring include extensive benzene monitoring routinely done to protect children at least 3.1 miles away. The second concern we have concerns the dismissal of the whether or not this particular area is considered a disproportionately impacted community or a cumulatively impacted community. We believe the analysis is flawed and incomplete because it appears to be based on the current environmental effects score, which is 63.73. That's based only on current conditions. As you know, this commission and Arapahoe County has already approved scores of wells in the same census tract, which is very likely going to push that environmental effects score beyond the 85 cutoff, making this in fact a disproportionately impacted community. This needs to be considered also in view of the tens of thousands of diesel truck trips that are going to be required to truck out the contaminated, oil and gas contaminated produced water, excuse me. Finally, third, the League is concerned that we need a more comprehensive alternative location analysis. The location selected is about as close as legally possible to densely populated residential neighborhoods within around 3,000 feet, the Aurora Reservoir, also around 3,000 feet, the surrounding recreational area, less than 3,000 feet, riparian wetlands and intermittent streams, 911 feet, and in the midst of a habitat for priority animals such as black-tailed prairie dogs, burrowing owls, and pronghorns antelope that reside near Munchie Creek, 900 feet or so away. Consideration needs to be given to moving the well pad further east to avoid these issues, and it would appear the only reason for not moving the sites further east is because the additional length of horizontal drilling that would be required, perhaps 3.5 to 5 miles instead of the 3 miles. In other words, this site appears to have been selected in such close proximity solely because of less cost, i.e. more profit to the applicant. We request that these issues be seriously considered. Thank you.
Thank you. And somebody over here said that number 37 had left, so just to double check. Oh, 37.
Hi, my name's Greg Geyer. I live in South Shore. I was not the original 37, but she handed me hers as she left. So I'm 30 people ahead of where I should. And I'm not going to talk a lot about the health issues here. I think we've covered those really well here so far today. But I am going to talk about the welfare piece that I've only heard one person talk about here. So one of the things that tends to happen to communities that are within fracking areas and close to fracking sites is a decrease in the value of homes from 10 to 25%. Now, for most of us, our homes are one of our biggest investments, and that's a huge hit on that investment. The other side of that is that I know that one of the reasons that Arapahoe and probably the state want to approve this is to get the taxes out of that. Well, you'll get a short-term tax increase while the drilling goes on, but you'll also, at least Aurora and Arapahoe County, will most likely, just from my neighborhood, get a decrease of about $2.9 million of property tax. The cumulative effect to the values of the homes in my neighborhood alone would be a decrease of about $500 million. That's huge. 1,960 houses, but we're talking about 25% of their value. Another impact of the fracking for homeowners is that a lot of finance companies will not finance a home that's close to fracking sites or have fracking underneath of them. That's a huge, huge thing to think about, especially right now when so many people are having a difficult time owning a home, getting a mortgage. Doesn't affect my wife and I, we don't have a mortgage, but it does affect a ton of people. A lot of refinance places won't approve that either. Another impact is on insurance. 3 different insurance companies that I've checked, including the one I have now, will not cover any any of the liabilities, the effects of anything that happens to me or my house if I'm in an area where there's fracking. If you think about that, that's huge. There's seismic things that can happen. We've already talked about the pollution. All of those things, if it creates liabilities to me, I'm not covered by my insurance. Specifically called out in my policy and 3 other policies that I've looked at. It's a huge impact, something that we all need to think about. Legal advice to me has been that I add a personal umbrella liability policy to what I have and go and look at adding another policy on top of that to cover just the fracking if I can find it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Okay, we have 38, 39, 40.
Hi, I'm Michael Rose. I live in Denver, roughly about 35 miles away from the Aurora Reservoir and I guess some of the, number of the sites. Speaking tonight as a concerned citizen, also as a member of Colorado Jewish Climate Action. Thank you for letting me provide a public comment. Here we are again at another public comment meeting for an oil and gas production site, and of course this one is astounding for how close it is to communities, to the Aurora Reservoir, and threats to wildlife and fire risk, all of that we've heard of. And certainly all the studies we've heard of as far as cancer, childhood cancer, asthma, and so forth. So I'm not going to go and repeat all of those things again. You've heard it, and we're going to hear it again and again in the future. Then there's going to be another meeting later on, a meeting where the corporate attorney for the oil company and the company employees explain how they checked all the boxes, addressed all the public health, wildlife, and safety concerns required by law, and they will hope to reassure that any risks or threats are non-existent or quite small. Then the commission will ask some questions, perhaps raise some concerns, maybe consult with the court, but eventually approve the well pad site. I live in the city and county of Denver, but this fracking site, along with the other sites proposed for the Lowry Ranch area, pose an extreme and totally unnecessary risk to the Denver aquifer and the air quality of the Metro Denver. It is all cumulative. We are the ancestors of tomorrow. The decisions this community makes now regarding this and other well pads will last for many years to come. In the future, will this community be forced to be evacuated because of a disaster such as the one at Gallatin in July of this year? Or will this community be able to tap into lower cost, dependable, renewable energy that doesn't threaten its health and safety? Arapahoe County is growing. People talk about moving the well pad further east or west or north or somewhere, but frankly, your county is going to grow to some 800,000 people in coming years, and someone will have to explain where that's going to go. There's also plans to increase the water supply.
Oh, it's good for battery.
Where are you going to get the water?
It hasn't yelled about
all these people who are coming,
yet,
and all these
so
businesses
it's
and
okay.
organizations that are coming.
Hopefully.
So we can't predict the future, but one thing we can be certain of, and I think what's going on tonight and the people that we're seeing here is just the tip of the iceberg, is that this community is determined to forcefully and legally fight this well pad and other well pads from harming their community. Even if this well pad is approved, and even if the wells are drilled, which I hope never happens, I know this community will never just roll over and allow any oil company to run roughshod over it. They'll use whatever legal means available to them to fight this project and its harms. I hope oil companies and their investors will take notice. The only moral choice for this commission is to reject this well pad application. We just can't risk it. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Good evening, my name is Daniel Hofer. I'm a geographer and I took an oath to protect our nation's agriculture. I want you to know this about me because I would never allow any corporation or big business to influence my duty. And I believe all of you have taken an oath too. All of you at ECMC protect public health, safety, welfare, and the environment and wildlife resources. And yeah, we've all heard all these stats that I was going to read. I'm not going to repeat it. The planned well, 3,000 feet away from homes. That's the length of Terminal B at DIA. That is short. That's the distance across Foxbridge Middle School and CT High School property combined. That is a short distance. That is the distance across Park Meadows Mall. I mean, you want to live that close to something so hazardous? The Aurora Reservoir is about the same distance, the city's drinking water. Not just next to it, but underneath it. I love our water. It's really good. There are also schools within a mile. For 15 months, families will face nonstop drilling, fracking, industry noise, and toxic emissions. I was going to bring props, headphones, and a mask, throw them on the floor right now, but I didn't. Crestone was supposed to use clean electric power. We've heard that many times today. And it isn't just one site. 7 more well pads, 119 wells are planned within 5 miles. Sunlight alone means 40,000 truck trips and 500 feet within close to the reservoir. The science is clear. Children living near oil and gas development face higher cancer risks. It has been said numerous times today. In fact, CU researchers just found that kids within 3 miles face a significantly higher risk of leukemia. Somebody earlier said a half mile was insanely more. EMC board, the last part of your mission statement, protect public health, safety, welfare, the environment, and wildlife resources. Would you live in that area with that pad installed? Accidents happen, as we heard about Chevron and releasing 3 million gallons of toxic waste, forcing people to evacuate. Neighbors, this comes down to one question. Will Colorado leaders protect our health, our water, and our future, or gamble it all for Crestone's profits? The law is clear, the science is clear, the risks are clear. The sunlight long or wrong pad must not move forward. This is our home and we will protect it. Thank you.
Okay. As we bring up Speaker 40, I would like to note we still have 23 speakers remaining that have signed up. I know some people have left, but we have 23, so we really need to stick to the 3 minutes because we only have 48 minutes left. So that doesn't work out math-wise, but we're going to try and keep it at 3 minutes for right now, given that I do think some people have left, but we do need to keep it to 3 minutes. So if we could have speaker number 40 now. And 41 and 42 if you can be ready as well. Okay, 40, 41. Okay.
I'm Tom Yeager, and I'm from Broomfield, where this happened to us 6 or 7 years ago. At the last hearing, I spoke about how these hearings are all kind of a charade. Lost my place. Now we hear the exact same things over and over at these hearings. These hearings pretty much go like this. Mothers, children, doctors, engineers, scientists, students, families, they say the exact same thing over and over to you. We all express our concerns about water, air, health, safety, wildlife, schools. And we share with you our fear, our real fear. And we back it up with facts, true facts, scientific facts. So while you sit here and try not to fall asleep, and you pretend to listen, Then you go back to your insulated bubble and approve the project. You say it's because it meets all the requirements and rules. But who makes the requirements and rules? You do! So tonight we really want to convince you that we are serious. Tonight we want you to understand just how passionate we are about you rejecting this project. We want you to do what's right for our children, our reservoir, our community. We want you to protect our health and safety, protect our resources, protect our homes, and protect our children. We want you to just say no. 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 Just say no.
Okay. Alright, guys. Other people are trying to get their comments.
We're on the same team. You can sit down now.
Guys, I didn't just sit here and get a bunch of mosquito bites. You're taking away my time. I appreciate it. I just sat here getting eaten by mosquitoes. Please sit down. Thank you. I appreciate the enthusiasm. Hey.
42.
Thank you. My name's Michelle. I am a resident of South Shore. I actually live probably right at about that 300-yard mark of this site. I'm a nurse. I've been at bedside for 28 years. I've worked in emergency medicine. I've worked in pediatrics. I've worked in mental health. Currently working in critical care, which means ICU, the sickest of the sick. I'm also an educator. I'm responsible for my team of 3 nurses covering 20 hospitals in 3 states, and that's teaching nurses how to be nurses. That's teaching my nurses how to deal with what they're seeing and caring for these patients. My mom was born and raised in Southeast Texas. My grandfather worked in the oil fields, and my grandmother, my mother's younger sister, traveled with them around. My mother stayed back. She was old enough to attend school. Her younger sister wasn't. My grandfather ended up dying from a chronic kind of leukemia. My mother's sister died from the same kind of chronic leukemia. My grandmother had breast cancer, and not a genetic kind. None of those cancers were genetic, not heritable. I'm pretty passionate about supporting my patients, about health prevention, about teaching my patients and their families. And it occurred to me that we've reached this place. What is this, the 4th hearing? And I'm incredulous that we've made it to a 4th hearing based on the health impact, right? But maybe it's because you don't know what leukemia looks like in a child. Maybe it's because you haven't experienced it yourself. Maybe you don't know what a respiratory death looks like in an adult. Maybe a parent. It's terrifying. Let me take a minute to give you a trigger warning that I'm going to get incredibly descriptive here. Because it occurred to me that if you knew what that looked like, if you knew what maybe that smelled like, that maybe we wouldn't be here yet. And I'm out of time. That's my husband. These kids, you can see them. I worked in the ER at Children's. These kids, you can pick them out in the waiting room. The cancer kids. The kids that are coming in with a new onset, a brand new diagnoses. And everyone at the nurse's station knows them. They see them walk down the hall as they're getting roomed. No one looks at them because they know. They know what's going to happen. Respiratory deaths related to poor air quality. My first death as a nurse was a respiratory death, and it was the most horrific thing I have ever experienced in my life. And I stayed at bedside. It's been 28 years. The gasping, the panic look in their eyes, the gray color of their skin, and maybe two not poor choices of theirs, but the environmental factors. And so I implore you to carry those images to you forward as you come to your choice to please either reject the application or move the site. But don't make me relive this through my community. Thank you.
Thank you for that. My name's Ryan. I'm Michelle's husband. I'm an engineer by education, graduated from Colorado School of Mines, software engineer by trade. Just on its face, after everything we've heard, like the fact that we've gotten this far is pretty ridiculous. I guess what I want to say is, like, from an engineering and a logical perspective, I don't know, like, the risk is way too high for this. You guys are inviting, as one of our other speakers said, hundreds of millions of dollars in liability for property loss of value and in life and health things. So I'm guessing whatever money is being saved by getting this so close to everybody's houses, that's going to be offset by the hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits. I mean, you guys are building this thing next to $1 million homes. Those people are not going to just lay down and let $250,000 of property value just go out the window. Rest assured, I know I'm not. So if you guys do approve this thing, it's either there's just too much money at stake, or you guys just don't live close enough to really care. I can't believe that you guys would put this anywhere near your house. That's just common sense. And just anecdotally, even just like talking to like people I know who are not liberal or of any political stripe, on its face says this is crazy, there's gotta be some kind of law against it. So, my time is up. Please use common sense for the love of God. Thank you.
Okay, can we do 44? 45? 44?
So I wasn't even actually planning to speak tonight. I grabbed a paper in case during the talk I felt compelled, and that's basically what's happened. Because as my neighbors kept coming up and listing the numerous environmental and health concerns associated with this proposal, I felt compelled to speak up. I think everyone before me has done a really good job of listing statistics and highlighting all the specific concerns to this project, so I just wanted to zoom out and briefly talk about the opportunity that you have to restore our faith in humanity and the government agencies put in place to protect the people can actually work. Our nation is in a bad spot right now. Every day, the news is filled with stories about people making decisions that seem counterintuitive to logic and human decency. Based on what I've heard tonight, I don't understand how this has gotten this far and wasn't immediately denied given the dangers it presents. Is the money really more important? It makes me terrified to think that this is moving forward, and I truly can't comprehend how you could hear all of this and still approve it. Instead, I'm going to hope and believe that you will make the right and obvious decision to reject this proposal and show us that there are still good people in positions of power that will do the right thing and put the health and safety of the people and environment above all else.
Good evening, everybody. I just gotta say, what a hard few acts to follow. Like, the things people have said tonight, I thought I was passionate about this cause, but wow, you guys have all shocked me. And nothing makes me feel more American than seeing citizens like this gather together behind a common cause to fight against injustice. My name is Jacob, and I'm a local resident who stands to be affected by these fracking initiatives. I'm here to do my civic duty and stand against what I believe is wrong. I find that the principles of character that have brought this initiative so close to implementation are antithetical to the American way and harm the families closest to us. I will not reiterate the harm that those before me have shared because I believe it's implied. I think that the term fracking, without any of the research associating, already has such negative connotation. So I can pose questions such as, what are flowback safeguards to prevent topsoil contamination? Or I could ask a question such as, what is the amount of carcinogenic additives being pumped below our drinking water? But instead, I will ask, when faced with the overwhelming and mighty voice of the people, will you listen or will you allow fracking? Thank you.
$46. $47. $48.
Hi, thank you for letting me be here tonight and speak with you, express just some of my concerns. My name's Hope Larson, I'm a concerned citizen, and I live in the Aurora area. You are so in luck, I forgot my notes, I just had the backup stuff, right? So here we go, it's gonna be short. We all know why we're here, because of fracking and the concerns, we've talked about Gailton and all that. But one thing that's really important is, I know that they're going to tell you the sunlight long that, guess what, we're setting up air monitors around. But you know why Gailton happened? Because that plume went over the air monitor. Yikes. That's not cool. How do we control how high our winds take gusts of things? We can't. And then Dr. Nicole Deisel, and I'm sorry, she's a PhD from Yale, she talked about fracking and how detrimental it is to public health, and we have talked about that. I'm not going to do it. You see, I'm flipping your pages fast for you. But it's really, one thing that I don't think was mentioned was the radioactivity in these materials that are pulled out. Oh my gosh, you know what? Cocolorado is naturally high in decomposing uranium. When they're pulling that out, they're getting the radium, uranium, radon, things of that. Man, I know how important that is. I personally had thyroid cancer. I played in that playground at Lowry Air Force Base. My dad was in the Air Force. And we didn't find out till later, oh my gosh, because I was exposed to the radioactive elements there. Gosh, look what I ended up with. So again, there is a direct correlation there. I so want to save people of going through those things and the children and everything. The children are our future. We hear that all the time. I'm not saying it just to say it. And I just have a few questions. So in order to protect homeowners, does Crestone state Sunlong, oil, light, and gas, are they providing extra benefits to the people that live around them for their increased health costs? for damages to their homes. We know that the insurers will not pay for that. One of the people from Gailton, he said, and on his Facebook page, he said, you know, I felt like I lived in Chernobyl. My house was wrapped. Holy cow, how scary is that? So what happens if the water's contaminated? Where do we go? What's our alternative? Do we have an alternative water source? There's health concerns for all. We know it. I implore you, please deny this site. It's one of those things that I feel so strongly about. If you don't live in the area and you're not willing to subject yourself to the potential, well, when they're not potential, there's just the known problems. Please don't expose us to that. Thank you.
Thank you. '49.
Hello, my name is Sophia Flores. And my name is Rafael Flores. And today we came here to tell you to stop fracking. What? What do we need to say? We came here to tell you to stop fracking because we are 3 children. I have a baby brother. I have a little brother. I'm the oldest. I'm concerned. And I came here tonight, my family came here because I wanted to come here and I wanted to stand up for all these people. Look around you. Look how many lives we would be affecting if this went on. This needs to stop now. It needs to stop. So say no instead of yes. Because instead of money, lives depend. We are people. We matter. You guys matter. Our homes matter. Think about if people frack next to your homes. How would that make you feel? Anxious? Concerned? Worried? Me too. We need water. We need our house. We need children. I don't want to see this go down in my middle school. And my brother here doesn't want to see it go down in his elementary school. Just think about how many lives you are putting on the line just for money, just for construction. That's crazy. So it needs to stop. And my brother wanted to tell you about water. It will impact our water of drinking. What are you going to say? You're going to make our water dirty. It's going to make your water dirty. We live in a beautiful neighborhood. Think about the wildlife. Think about like near the Aurora Reservoir. I've been here since 4 or 5, and the Aurora Reservoir means so much to me, and it's so peaceful right now. Why make it worse? Why make us have that pressure on us that we can lose a lot just because you guys have changed it with one word? It's not fair, and it needs to stop, because all of us here, we have come and we have stayed because we know that we matter. So it needs to end. It needs to stop right now, right in this minute. Say no right now, because it needs to stop. And no matter how hard the frackers say, no, we're going to do it because of the money, they still know that we are people and we deserve to live a peaceful life without years of fracking because we need a childhood to grow up. What are you going to do with all the people with hearing loss? And I have hearing loss, so that's really going to affect me. I have EVA, and so I have a different bone structure, which means that I have a uniqueness. And I know that a lot of people in here have a uniqueness, right? So that really matters. Thank you.
And that was an 11-year-old asking, pleading, and telling you guys to listen to our voices. That is my daughter. I am a mom. We live in the South Shore area. we will be impacted highly by the fracking near our homes. She does have hearing loss. She wears hearing aids, and we're highly worried about the impacts of those sounds that will be going on constantly in the background. So much so that I have been sneaking around and looking around to see what other houses I can find to move. Even though my husband and I, being teachers in the district, cannot afford to move at the moment. I am a high school teacher. I work approximately 6 miles from where the fracking site is going to take place. My husband works 2 miles from where the fracking site will take place, and my children attend school within 1 mile from where the fracking will take place. I'm highly concerned for their health. I'm highly anxious for what is in our future. I do have a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, and an 11-year-old to worry about. I highly beg of you to put yourselves in our shoes. We thought we had moved into our dream neighborhood. We thought we had reached what we wanted to achieve. And now we are looking and seeing where to go because our dreams are coming to a stop. Where does this stop? I will tell you that I was not going to speak today. I have no faith in our political system. I do not think you are truly listening to us. I do not think you are really seeing us. I'm an educator. I know what listening looks like. I teach 9th grade students. So when I see a glazed over look while you just nod your heads, I know that's you going, here we go again. I've been guilty of that in my classroom. I am highly, highly disappointed that you guys aren't upholding your end of the deal with your jobs. As an educator, I am not allowed to let the 9th grade boy jump around the room and do whatever he pleases. It's my job as his teacher, as his mom of the day, to make sure that he's getting his education and not messing around with the kids in class. So what are you doing to stop the fracking companies from damaging our communities, from breaking your rules? You guys are a laughingstock, right? If a teacher's not respected, the students know they're a laughingstock. You are a mat to walk on. Don't be a mat. Say no, stick up, say no. Thank you.
Okay, 51.
Let's see how close I need to be to this thing. All right, good evening, commissioners. My name is Brock Logan, and my fiance and I are also former residents of Southeast Aurora, and we also moved out of the risks that this proposed path would pose to our future children's health. So hopefully that shows just how important this is to everybody in this community, those who can move and those who maybe don't have the means. I'd like to examine you guys' own 3-tier hierarchy for making these decisions. Level 1 is avoid, level 2 is minimize, and level 3 is mitigate. Given your own recent reports documenting 3,275 instances of data falsification, many involving Civitas pads, and some by up to 3 orders of magnitude, how can this framework be reasonably applied? Level 1 is avoid, which we're clearly not doing. Pick any prior speaker. Level 2 is minimize, which we're also not doing. We're talking about one of the largest well pads in the state in close proximity to neighborhoods, schools, and a water source. So the last element of your hierarchy that you could use to say yes to this is mitigation. And this level depends on truthful and accurate data for proper assessment, something that Civitas has demonstrably failed to provide. Without reliable data, we cannot credibly promise effective mitigation. So we have 2 choices to apply this framework. You can either acknowledge the dishonesty of Civitas, in which case, based on your own hierarchy, you can't approve this. We're not avoiding or minimizing, and you can't claim mitigation knowing that you're being lied to. Choice 2 is that we assume that this multi-billion-dollar corporation has learned their lesson and will be honest into the future despite their proven unreliability, while your own report with the pretense of phase 3, mitigation. Again, we're clearly not avoiding or minimizing. But if we take that ill-advised route and they falsify data again, what recourse do we have? The health risks are well documented. Again, reference any prior speaker. So when considering this approval, or when considering approving this proposal by a dishonest company, I ask you, if it was your child or your wife or your parent who got leukemia as a result of those operations, would you feel like the mitigation was sufficient? Could you look into the eyes of someone affected and claim sufficient mitigation in this proposal, knowing that you trusted a known liar when you could have denied this application based on your own framework? The power is in your hands, gentlemen, and you have to know that the proposed Sunlight Long location is unacceptable by your own framework. Thank you.
'52.
Good evening. I know it's been a long night, and I thank you for sitting here and listening to us. It's important that you do that. My name is Tracy McDermott. I am the chair for Denver's Client Reality Project chapter, the statewide and national chair for sustainability for the business and professional women, and sit on the International Committee for Sustainability for Business and Professional Women. I also serve as the chair of sustainability for my neighborhood. My day job is a researcher in human health. I spent my career there and see the everyday environmental impacts on people, including my beloved sister, who was recently diagnosed with a blood cancer that is likely related to an environmental factor. It's been a rough summer. I grew up not far from here and have watched development explode, and with that comes the loss of habitat and the beautiful ecosystem that is here. I've lived most of my life in Colorado, grew up just over the county line from here, and many members of my family, including that sick sister, currently live right in the area we're speaking about tonight. I now live in Denver near a polluted corridor. Our community worked hard for a grant for air purifiers to give to our most impacted residents just so they can breathe cleaner air inside their homes. We are alerted frequently about dirty, polluted air and now regular ozone alerts. Being warned to limit our time outside is a new normal. In this beautiful state, we're advised not to go outside. I hope we all take some time and let that sink in. What are we doing? More importantly, our climate is changing rapidly, and the near future of a livable planet is at risk. My own lifetime, I watched from my parents' home the reduction in snowpack from Pikes Peak to Long's Peak. It is disappearing. Let us not forget that our state economy relies on skiing. That observational lack of snowpack is climate change, and that change is due to the burning of fossil fuels in our atmosphere. What we do today can impact what happens to this place we cherish, how it impacts our air, and decides what the world we look like for our children. I ask you today to finally promote this proposal and to decide that the future is a good one for the kids in this room and all the kids all over this planet. As what we do in Colorado impacts our global community. What we should be talking about tonight is how we build on a renewable energy technology to power our lives and make that happen. I don't ask you to deny this just because it impacts this area or I have a sick sister. I'm asking you that you don't allow this to go somewhere else because it impacts us all. Just deny it. People and the other species we temporarily share this space with should be prioritized over the profits of these companies. Thank you.
We do have a hard stop at 8:30 as this venue at 17 minutes, and we have, I think, 9 speakers. So if for some reason we don't get them all, contrary to what some people said, we do want to hear from you. Again, we do encourage written comments as well, and happily please.
Hi, thanks for your time tonight. My name is Melissa Katz. I'm a resident of Denver, Colorado, and I am a member of Colorado Jewish Climate Action, and that's why I'm here. I'm a member of Colorado Jewish Climate Action. We bring our Jewish values to really address on the top line, yeah, I'd like to see fracking go away. If there was a delay, that's not going to happen today. But what I do want to say here today is request that you deny this proposal as it stands currently. There have been a number of people who have addressed how you could improve this thing and reduce the risk of health and the environment to the community by taking specific measures such as electrifying the grid, moving it more east, away from high-density population and so forth. The one thing I was thinking about adding, because I've heard a lot of things, and a lot of things I haven't written down have been said, is just what are the risks and the hazards. We've mentioned benzene. We know that is a hazard. But there is, I think, something like 1,000 chemicals that come out of this process. And some of these chemicals are unknown because the fracking chemicals are very terrible. So, I'll short list of some of the known carcinogens. And they include arsenic, which in a recent oil spill report, there was plenty of them when they took soil samples. Above, I think some of them were 20 times above the soil level by ECMC. So we know that these contaminants are there. That's just a few other things. So there's also strontium, mercury, barium, radioactive isotopes, benzene, toluene, ethylene, benzene, and xylene. All things that we know that when people are exposed to these through their soil or their water can cause significant health damage. What can we do? We need to mitigate risk. And so you've heard some of those. I'm not going to repeat them. I'm just going to reiterate. Please deny this as this proposal currently stands. There's a way to mitigate risks, and I think that's the way we move forward. Thank you.
Number 54. 54, 55. 56. 57.
Hello, my name is Faith. First time I've commissioners growing up with my baby daughter, now 6 years old. And I hope that it makes a difference. I haven't really seen the concern from the comments that I can all in my eyes. So I don't know how you're not affected by that. And it's kind of frightening considering the power that you hold and the decisions you're going to be making very soon. And it's bittersweet because I've been commenting and stressing about the proposal and just listening to my children for the past 2 years. And this turnout does go need something. I haven't seen it throughout the past years. We've all been feeling it in school, meetings with the children, and everyone showed up today. And it was always not a project. This had a lifelong. And is it enough? And what does that mean to you? We want to break the cycle of people informed on the cycles on days that living alone. Our hope is for a job. The choice of proving how this application puts against the protecting health and safety. The air is not safe for you already, and most days for most days of summer. And you're swiftly making Colorado unlivable. I have a tracker, good and bad, for high ozone action days, and I don't let my kids go outside on those days. It's disgraceful. There are way too many. And I feel most people do not follow the ozone action days.
2024, the U.S. grid added a total of just over 56 gigawatts of new power capacity. A whopping 96% of that came from solar, battery, wind, nuclear, and other carbon-free sources. So the fossil fuel industry is set to receive $34.2 billion in handouts every year, over $4 billion of which were added by Trump and Republicans this year. These handouts have more than doubled since 2017. Fossil fuel companies, which spend millions every year to rig our political system in their favor, receive a 30,000% return on investment in the forms of tax breaks, direct appropriations, cheap access to public lands, and other handouts from the federal government. Redirecting public money away from the fossil fuel industry could provide 2 million families annually with SNAP benefits, or help 54 million households install solar panels within a decade. I mean, you're the Energy Management Commission. That would be great, right? Solar everywhere? Free energy? I think as long as that's sustainable, I think it's sustainable. So if you approve this project, you are maintaining a destructive and stagnant status quo that obstructs the green job transition, which we could do in Colorado. We talked about it, we tried to pass bills in the legislature, and we're part of that right now. These decisions will affect that next year too. This stagnant and destructive status quo will also force me as a taxpayer and every taxpayer here to clean up abandoned wells, fracking spilled fluid, all that stuff. Because there are always accidents, and Civitas knows they can get away with it. They say it'll be safe for the residents, but what they mean is they want to profit off of it, no matter if it's safe or not. They don't care. I would end with this. Every new fracking site carries death sentences for future lives. We don't know who or how, but it does. There's no denying that. No one can deny science. It is one of the dirtiest forms of energy, and we can do better. Oil and gas is an industry of death, but we can change. But we're part of that right now. Thank you for your time. We have 59. 60. 1. Perfect.
Hello, my name is Kate O'Neill, and I'm a resident of Aurora, and I'm not going to repeat what everyone said and, the testimonies and studies, but I'm going to tell you a little story about Dr. Frances Kelsey. I promise this is related. So the year is 1960. She just started at the FDA, and she got received an application from which is a pharmaceutical companies, and even back then they had deep pockets and a powerful lobby. They wanted the FDA to approve this drug, which it was already approved in Europe, a lot of European countries, even Canada. And under the trade name Heptadone, you might know it better as thalidomide. But Dr. Kelsey saw something was wrong. And even though there was pressure from the lobby, she kept denying it, and then a year later it came out that it caused horrible, deformities, birth defects, and because of her courage, she saved the United States from a similar tragedy that was from Europe. So what does thalidomide have to do with the path for the fracking? Well, you can have the opportunity to be like Dr. Kelsey and take a stand, because I know. I would argue that lobbies are more important now than they were in the 60s because of how expensive electricity is. So it's a priority for politicians to keep their lobbyists happy. So I understand. So you might be getting some pressure from the bosses. I'm not accusing her or anything, but I want to ask you: do you want to be like Dr. Frances Kelsey and be
of this outrageous fracking so close to human life and the reservoirs. Fracking causes earthquakes and ground subsidence. The toxins cannot be controlled or contained. Proximity to homes and schools is unacceptable. The Senate Bill 19-181 mandate, the waste cannot be mitigated. The water request for it is, we can't make it. And natural gas or methane depletes our atmosphere much, much faster than CO2. And we have a big problem with that. So I'm asking you and begging you, I came from 90 miles south, out in Colorado, and I have to go 90 miles back home right now. I really believe that this should be stopped. So thank you so much for being here.
I'm really hoping that you don't agree to let this move forward. I don't want fracking sites in my community. If you do decide to move it forward, I really hope that you have stricter setbacks. I don't agree with the setbacks right now. It's too close to families and homes. This is a short-sighted decision focused on money instead of considering how this is going to hurt our community. Why not leave it in the ground and save it for later? All we're doing right now is sending it overseas, and we don't see anything. The community is taking on all of the damage, and everyone else is getting the benefit of our resources. And the choices that we make will come back to us. We don't need oil to live, but we cannot live without water for 3 days. So please consider that water is more important than oil.
I also live just probably pretty close to the proposed site of the well. I have a 1-year-old son who was born 2 months premature. He didn't get to drink water for an entire month after he was born. I worry about his health, I love my wife and my own health. And I don't oppose energy development altogether. All I'm saying is that there are some places where wells shouldn't be, and this close to houses and next to a major water source isn't one of the places that should be. Thank you.
What are the people to do? What else do we have to do? Is this any different than the last 3 hearings? If you guys approve this, what else are we supposed to do? Is there any other options? Do we have to call Governor Polis? I don't know. But if you guys vote for this, you will be responsible for poisoning a community. Child cancer, that will be your legacy. I am inspired by everybody in this room. I urge you all to join a social and environmental justice organization. We need more people to fight for a future. We decide our future, not people like them.
I'm just going to take back on what he said. I don't think this is going to be any different than the last one. We'll do a lot of these damn hearings. It's going to be the exact same. And so I don't even want to really speak to them. I'm going to speak to you guys. What are you guys going to do if they pass this? Like, what are we going to do as a community? It's going to have to come down to more than this. They're going to go in and they're going to not give a shit what you said. Like, Stephen here, he just sat there like, oh, the whole time. He does not care. So, like he said, go join the movement, get involved, we need you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your patience. You've heard a lot of hyperbole, you've heard some good science. I hope you can be patient with all of the feelings that we have. They're coming from a place of honesty. The new thing I wanted to share that was worth
waiting for, so I have a list of 59 names of people that are my friends that I've talked to that wanted to come tonight, but there were 59 reasons they couldn't, and I counted, that's this amount of chairs and this amount of chairs. So those are the number of people that wanted to be here to say the same things we're all wanting to say, just for me. So multiply me by everybody that was here. No one wants this. Nobody wants this. The citizens wants this. Nobody that lives here wants this. And I hope that you guys have the space that you need to do the right thing. Thank you.
I want to start that you guys are saying this, so thank you. So I'm a mother, homeowner, business owner in Wheatlands area, just less than 2 miles from the proposed site, from my child's school, from where I work. Civitas should not be allowed to move forward with this. I mean, you alone have cited them. Colorado transparency laws, over 60% of 1,100 frac sites since July 2023. ECMC's sluggish enforcement raises serious health and compliance concerns. Am I investing in a safe, thriving neighborhood or a reckless, poorly monitored industrial intrusion? We've talked about the downtime spill. Please honor your mandate under SB 181 to prioritize public health, safety, welfare, and the environment over industry profit. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael. I live in Aurora. Hi, Brett. The question you're not here today to answer from us is fracking near the Aurora Reservoir a good idea? Is dumping toxic waste into our water source a good idea? No, that's not why we're all here. We all know the answer to that. The question we're here is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth the risk? Are the bribes you're taking from Civitas worth poisoning the water for 400,000 Coloradans? Don't frack near the Aurora Reservoir. That's our drinking water. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Dr. James Tang, the reported Anson Southwest Maine Medicine physician. Look very familiar. I just wanted to talk about the oath that I took many years ago, and that was to not do any patients harm and to treat all of them equally and equitably. So that means whenever I take care of any patient, rich or celebrity, criminal, or American hero, they all get the same treatment from me. There's no criminal package of anesthesiology. There is only my optimal care. I live every day by that oath, and I'm sure our law enforcement friends also have taken an oath to protect the community, to serve. You guys have an oath as well. You guys have your mandate to prioritize public health, the environment, and our safety. Please live up to that oath as I have lived up to my oath. That is our social contract. Thank you.
Thank you so much for staying late. One thing I haven't heard addressed is whether Civitas will be allowed to sell these pads to a different company after they receive the permit. I read as much as I could of the application, but I didn't see that listed anywhere explicitly, and I'm concerned that this permit might go to Civitas, but the pad may then be operated by KP Kaufman or Adam Petroleum or Texas Tea of Colorado or one of these small companies that won't be able to afford the cleanup costs if another gallatin happens. So I would like you guys to consider that as you are looking at this, and don't think about this going just to Civitas, but what happens if this pad gets sold to the next operator? Do you have control over who they sell it to? Will they be able to sell it to someone that can afford the cleanup costs? If that's not explicit, please make it explicit. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Milo. I'm a Colorado native, and I live in the Copperleaf neighborhood, which is just west of Southlands Mall. I'm here because I strongly oppose this. I have 3 children at home and a husband, and I remember when my oldest child, who's now 9, had RSV and was in the hospital. And I
I remember seeing how he was hooked up to an oxygen machine, and the oxygen was pumping air in and out of his lungs. I implore each of you to go to Children's Hospital and stand in that cancer ward and see those children and tell me it doesn't break your heart. Sanitize is Latin for community and citizenship. Do you think this is helping the community? Do you think this benefits our community? Do you think it benefits the people, the environment? It doesn't. Some of the chemicals that you guys explained and what they cause: benzene, acute side effects, nausea, vomiting, confusion, seizures. That's acute side effects of benzene. Some of the chronic side effects: blood disorders, leukemia, and myelodysplastic syndrome. Blood cells that don't work properly. Let's talk about the reproductive effects: miscarriage, premature birth, and birth defects. This is like Aaron Brockovich 2.0. Please deny this. Stand up. We need you. We need you to deny this. We need you to stop this from happening. Thank you for listening.
I'm a Denver resident, I'm a neighbor, and I care about my fellow neighbors here. It doesn't sound like you do because you're not even willing to answer simple questions like what do you meet with scientists in the community. But maybe you'll listen to the fact that you're really bad at your jobs. You're supposed to be protecting the public health and welfare. You're not. So when you go home to your families, they should be disappointed in you, and you should be disappointed in yourselves too.
I'll keep this comment short. I'm expressing my opposition to this plan. Someone I respect once told me to make decisions that I can sleep well with, to make decisions that I won't regret when I look myself in the mirror. The decisions you make will affect me, us, and the generations after us. As you go to bed tonight, I hope you think about the people that could be hurt. I hope you keep in mind the people like me, whose health depends on your prudent actions. I hope you can imagine the true human toll that could be at stake. Is this something that you are happy to enable, or do you stand for something? Thank you.
I'm Deputy Director of the Dover County Sheriff's Office. I was promised I got to speak last. Thank you all for coming. Please drive home safely.
Thank you, everyone. I do know that many of you did have written comments that you were kind of flying at the end.